walk through those processes a little bit. And the way that we do that is by looking at a lot of documentation to see if the internal control process says somebody reviews Cindy's bank reconciliation, and if the internal control is that the trustees look at disbursements and sign off on them, and Ross comes in and looks over Cindy's work and signs off on it, that we can see those sign-offs and verify that those controls are operating as described to us. And then we did a little more testing of internal controls too. So we looked at probably 25 disbursements this year to see if those internal controls were being used throughout the year, so that we could place some kind of reliance on those. If we've done that testing and identified areas where we thought the internal controls were not being done, and that it created a significant deficiency or material weakness in internal control because of lack of segregation of duties, we would be required to report that to you, and we didn't note anything where the internal control systems were not working as described to us. We also look at board minutes, so we want to, we go through the board minutes and look for items that could affect the financial statements, or that might indicate that there are contingent liabilities at the end of the year. Things, large items that the town might be responsible for that would affect financial statement readers, and we didn't note anything that should be disclosed in that way. We also look at grant agreements and correspondence from grantors and oversight agencies, and then we do inquiry of management and others in the organization to find out if there are risk areas that we should be aware of. In performing the audit, we do a lot of testing. We try to get a lot of verification from third-party sources. So if we're looking at bank balances and we want to make sure that the balance is correct, we'll confirm with the banks themselves. And then we do a lot of testing of the outstanding items. So we get the bank reconciliation from Cindy, and we test anything that she's showing as outstanding at the end of the year, and we verify that the bank balance matches what the bank has sent to us in the confirmation. We also will confirm debt. So we'll confirm debt at the end of the year, and then we also, if it's debt that has to be turned into Emma, or they have SEC requirements, then we also look to make sure that there aren't any major problems with the debt at the end of the year, and that it shouldn't be disclosed as current or anything like that. We also perform a lot of analytics on account balances. So for revenues and expenses testing, a lot of time we'll do analytics. So if you have streams of revenues like your user fees for trash and water and sewer and things like that, we'll get numbers of users and do some analytics to see if those appear reasonable. For grant revenues and taxes, we usually test by looking at bank statements and seeing where the payment actually comes in, and we also look at the cutoff at the end of the year to make sure that you're recognizing everything that should be receivable properly at the end of the year. Last year we had journal entries related to that cutoff. Some things were being recognized as outstanding cash items instead of receivables. This year that was all cleaned up. Everything was really good, and we didn't have any audit adjustments related to receivables at the end of the year. So that was great. As I probably noted when I was just talking, our testing includes sampling transactions, usually balance sheet items. We'll sample a lot, and then some revenues and expenses, and we look at invoices, check stubs, bank statements, receipts, things like that we can see are hard things that we can see that a transaction took place during the year, and as much as possible, something that was verified by a third party. We do some additional analysis as well. So we look at the general ledger detail. Cindy provided just the whole general ledger detail for us, which shows all the transactions that took place during the year, along with the journal entries. And we get that in a format so that we can go through it and do searches and identify large and unusual transactions and test those transactions. And that gives us a little bit more assurance that there's not something weird out there that we're missing that could impact the financial statements in a material way. We also look at disbursement detail, and what we're looking for there is missing check numbers or unusual activity. So if we see a lot of related party transactions or a lot of disbursements made out of cash or things like that, then we would do further testing on that. We also use the vendor list in our testing to make sure that the invoices we're looking at were included on the vendor list and are approved vendor of the town. We do journal entry review, so I mentioned that we got the general ledger detail, and that includes journal entries in it. And our auditing standards require us to look at the journal activity during the year, make sure that nothing is being posted that seems unusual. Examples of unusual journal entry activity might be moving expenses into capital assets just to lower expenses. Or if you were trying to cover up something in revenue, you might do a journal entry to recognize that you received a balance, but then you do a journal entry to recognize it as bad debt expense, and that can cover up some fraud or something like that. Our journal entries review didn't reveal anything unusual. Most of the journal entries that we saw that were large were year-end entries to recognize receivables in the proper period or to recognize capital asset activity, and we tested those in conjunction with our regular audit testing. The significant adjustments we had as part of the audit were primarily just adjustments to the government-wide accounts. So when you look at the financial statements, you have those two first statements right at the front, the statement of net position and the statement of activities. And those show the town's balances on a more of a business type basis. So you see the long-term activity, you can see the capital assets and the long-term debt. So our adjustments were primarily just to those accounts, and they really weren't that big. I think there was just a clerical error in the depreciation schedule, which required an adjustment, and then there were just some reclassification adjustments so that that beginning governmental net assets matched last year's audit, but they weren't anything too significant. The most significant adjustments were to recognize the pension activity. So you have that FPPA account, and every year you have to recognize either the net liability or the net asset. And so we went ahead and put together that information and posted those adjustments to the financial statements. There were improvements in the current year compared to last year. Last year, of course, was the first year audit, and it was difficult anyway. And we had quite a few entries last year. This year, the number of entries that we had as part of the audit was cut down dramatically. So Cindy did a great job this year. The treatment of interfund transfers, the cutoff of receivables for taxes and grants, and the reconciled bank balances were all more clear and accurate during the 2019 audit than during the 2018 audit. And so we were really pleased with that. Internal control findings, these were also cut down quite a bit. I'm going to talk about material weaknesses first. The material weaknesses is a deficiency or combination of deficiencies in internal control such that there is a reasonable possibility that a material misstatement will not be prevented or detected and corrected on a timely basis. And really, the primary adjustment that is still causing a material weakness is just that FPPA plan. And I'm happy to provide the spreadsheet that we used to put that calculation together to Cindy so that she can understand that and correct that in the future. So I think that's not a huge hurdle to overcome. And then a significant deficiency, this is the same as last year, and it's really on the AICPA, which is my regulatory body, has said that a good internal control system includes somebody on staff who's able to put together a full set of GAAP financial statements in accordance with governmental accounting standards, which is no small task. You know, I do a lot of not-for-profit audits also, And those financial statements, for a small not-for-profit, can be 10 pages long or 10 to 20 pages long. Governmental financial statements are anywhere from 50 to 100 pages long just for a county the size of Paonia. So it's no small undertaking to understand how those work. And because you don't have somebody on staff who can put together the financial statements from beginning to end, then it's considered a significant deficiency. And Cindy has asked me, and I've agreed to give her all the information I have so that she can get to the point where we can also get rid of this deficiency in the future. And also, I just want to say I'm very grateful for the staff of the town of Paonia for being so patient and cooperative this year and working so well with us. We were able to get all of the information that we need. It was really timely, and Cindy did a great job of communicating back and forth with us. This is a really challenging year, so I'm really happy with the way it turned out. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Okay, any questions from members of the board?
I have one question. You mentioned cash payments. Does the town actually make cash payments to people, or is it mostly done by check?
They're done by check. Yeah, and I was referring to making out checks to cash, which, yeah, we didn't see any of those either.
Any other questions? Yeah, Dave.
Two questions. One, we're seeing when we sign the checks that there seems to be an increase in the number of credit card and online purchases that are just made on a regular basis. Now, the thing I like about signing checks is there can be a stop for payment. With these, and we're seeing increasingly vendors are asking us to pay online. And so how do internal controls work in order to, like right now, there's a really good internal control. And you sit down in the finance committee and you say, wait a minute, we're not going to sign a check. So that's a question.
That is hard, and off the top of my head, I can't think of the best control for that, but I can go back and look and send you what I know from other clients who have good internal controls for that. But that is a risk area. The more transactions you do online or through credit card, it gets more difficult to have internal controls. And especially the ones where you're going to a website and paying online, it's really difficult because anybody can do it. And so I don't see a way that you would be able to get around that unless you went through your bank and said, we aren't going to do this.
We're having trouble because a lot of vendors, and I understand this from a business perspective, they don't want to bother sending us paper invoices. It's just more labor costs. It's non-value added stuff. And so they want us to sign up and make payments that way. So that's the first question. The second one is I'm not real clear on why we would need 50 to 100 page financial statements. And that's a little bit of a joke, but what I'd like to see more is last month we got a really nice bunch of charts that came with our thing that kind of showed circle, bar charts and things like that simplified it. I think it makes it easier for the public to read. That's the thing that I think is more understandable financial statements. That's why, when you said something about getting the skills necessary to produce these really intensely detailed financial statements, is that like year-end stuff and not a monthly basis? Is that what you're talking about?
It's year-end and it's required by the state of Colorado. So not all states require small local governments to do full GAAP financial statements. And full GAAP financial statements include a lot of information that not everybody's interested in, but it includes everything that somebody might be interested in. So the state of Colorado requires all governments with over $750,000 in assets or debt or revenues or expenses to do a set of full GAAP financial statements at the end of the year and have them audited. So that's why they're so long, and it's because it's a state requirement. As far as the financial statements go, a lot of them are hard to read, and it's it's hard to sit down and just read from beginning to end and understand what you're looking at. What I generally recommend is, if you're gonna read anything, read the management's discussion and analysis at the beginning. The numbers in there are referenced back to the financial statements and agree to those statements, but it includes some narrative and comparison to prior years, so you have some context of what you're looking at. And then I also recommend just read the footnotes that you're interested in and refer back to the financial statements from the footnotes, because really they're not useful if you just read from beginning to end. The budget information at the back of the financial statements is probably closer to what you're used to looking at during the year, where you can see, okay, this is the budget that we had, the final budget that we approved, and this is how we ended up at the end of the year. And it should closely match what you saw during the year.
Are there any other questions? By the way, my microphone is not working. Any other questions from anyone? So I do have a minor question. Coming off what Dave said, are there better internal controls if you were to do a bank transfer versus a credit card payment for something?
I think it depends on your controls over the credit card. So if you're using credit cards, it's really important to have strong internal controls over who has the card, who has access to it, and what your review process is over credit card statements. So if you have a really strong process where somebody outside of the accounting department who doesn't have a credit card is able to go and look at credit card information on a regular basis, then I think you can develop good internal controls there. There are also some services that help you pay electronically, like Bill.com. Some of my clients use that, and that's an electronic way to pay bills, but it goes through a third party, and it allows, say, the accounting department to set a payment on a bill, but the payment won't go through unless, for the clients I have, which are smaller metro districts, they have a board member who has to go in and actively approve a payment before it goes through. So sometimes that's also better control.
Okay. Is there what method you would think would work for us?
You know, I don't know if Bill.com would work just because you're bigger. I'm not sure how that would work. You'd have to talk to the provider, like a Bill.com or some other service, to find out if that would work for you. I do have a lot of clients who use purchasing cards or credit cards, and they do have strong internal controls over the credit card process and have developed good processes over time. I think the most risky is just going onto a website and paying. But you can create pretty good internal controls over credit cards.
Any other questions? Okay, is there anything else you'd like to present or talk about? Any comments from staff?
Oh, the extra procedures thing.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a comment.
Yeah.
I had an opportunity to review the audit report with our financial officer and some items with our town administrator. And as we've been issued an unqualified opinion, and to the extent that the auditor has identified the issues that were concerned to her and the diagnostics that they prepared, I would recommend to the board at the regular meeting that they would approve and accept the audit and direct the auditor to file with the Secretary of State. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I would add, as Cindy just brought up the COVID-19 thing, we did have a disclosure at the end for the pandemic, and it was a subsequent event disclosure for the town, and also disclosure about the bonds that will be issued. And I would add, as far as internal controls go, since you've had so much remote work being done this year, I would just stress that it's important to make sure all the internal control processes are still working the same, even though you've had a change in the way things are done a little bit.
Yes, Dave.
I just wanted to comment that during the COVID period, we were still meeting in person with the treasurer and the finance director to sign checks, so those internal controls are in place. And considering this is only the second time I've been through the audit process, but I saw what we were dealing with last year, and I just wanted to commend you and our staff for a really good job, a job well done. Thank you.
Okay. Well, if there are no other comments or questions, then I guess we can shut down this part of the meeting and take a little break. Thank you so much for coming and presenting to us. I really appreciate it. I appreciate all your work and your flexibility to do this remotely as you did. Thank you so much. All right. Well, I guess we are adjourned until 6:30.
Down into this year? Yeah, it's in August. Okay. All right, I'll just plan on that.
Say, one other thing is, thank you for the timing. We have a report on file with state by the end of the month.
Well, a large part of that is sending to the
I know.
website.
You're the one who's going to.
Trustee Benninger, here. Trustee Johnson?
Here.
Trustee Peterson?
Here.
Trustee Knight? Trustee Patterson?
Here.
Mayor Bosler?
Here. Okay, we have a quorum and can continue. First item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion?
Here, I'd like to recommend the approval of the agenda.
And a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. All right, next thing is announcements. I believe Evan has an announcement to make.
Deciding not to work, but I can speak loudly. So I'm sure most of the staff, if not all, and also the board members are aware that I accepted a position as the city manager for Monticello, Utah. I just want to use this time to just say how appreciative I am for you and everything the town has done for me while serving as the assistant to the administrator. It was an extremely difficult choice, especially with Tam being such a special place. I feel like no matter where I go, there's going to be very few communities that have the sense of community and just the overall natural beauty that Tammany has to offer. So, yeah, so once again, just thank you so much for having me. Even though it was a brief stay, I've learned a lot, and I hope that I have provided a lot to the town as well. And that if you ever need anything, so, feel free to just send anything my way, and I'll do my best to help you out.
Thank you very much, Evan. I speak personally that, yeah, you're gonna be missed, so I hope you all the best in your career down there, and don't get cancer. Okay, any other announcements?
I think the mayor is aware of this, but the other trustees may not, but I signed up as a party to the rulemaking with the Colorado Oil and Gas Commission. And there'll be, there's a number of rules coming up that their permit commission is just unnamed, and they'll be dealing with wildlife in other areas. So I signed up as an interested party in that on behalf of the town.
Thank you, Dave. All right, last call. All right, seeing none, let's move on to recognition of visitors and guests. First, we're going to deal with the audit acceptance for submittal. Do I have a motion on that?
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the audit as given.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on that? Any discussion?
Madam Mayor, may I ask if the trustee would amend the motion to also direct the auditor to file a statement?
Okay.
So amended.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion and an amended motion. Do we have any input from the public before we vote on this? Okay. Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Any opposed? No? All right. That motion carries. All right. The next item is visitors and guests. You are welcome to speak on anything that is not on the agenda. Do we have anyone who would like to speak? Amy, would you please state your name?
Sure. Amy Kaluka. I'm a Hammond resident and business owner here in town. And I have copies for all of you. What I'd like to, I didn't submit my letter for you to review prior to getting here, so if I may, I'd like to just read it to you and then give you a copy for consideration. I'm here on behalf of the local businesses here in town, and a group of us have been meeting to try to find a way to support one another. And so that's, so if I may just take a minute to read the letter right now. We, the downtown Peonia retailers, are reaching out to our local and county governments at a time of need. Due to COVID-19, our downtown shopping area has experienced an extreme decline in business, including retail shops, lodging, bars, and restaurants. We feel it's more important than ever to work collaboratively and creatively to keep our businesses alive and maintain the unique charm that helps to make downtown Peonia special. We are proud to be business owners who strive to create a vibrant and dynamic business district on Grand Avenue and neighboring streets. We feel our contribution to the development of downtown Peonia has played an essential role in the economic growth and lifestyle within our community. We're taking the appropriate measures to keep our businesses safe and healthy for locals and visitors by adopting best practices recommended by the CDC and Delta County. At this time, we're asking for the following. Please post David Jacobson's recent video announcing that Peonia is open to the Town of Peonia website and Facebook page. 2. Place a full-page ad in the High Country Shopper and the DCI stating that downtown Peonia is open for business. 3. Support Grand Avenue street closures on Saturdays from 1 to 6 p.m. starting July 4th through September 26th, so our businesses can have sidewalk sales, gallery openings, and visitors at a safe distance. Please support, number 4, please support your local businesses and encourage others to do the same. And there are many people that I reached out to get their commitment to the letter. About 3/4 of them got back to me in time for tonight. Everybody that I could contact is written on this letter, but I know it's not inclusive of everyone. Like several people who part of the lodging, part of the business community, I wasn't able to get to them. So I'd just like to read some of the names of the people who did respond, so you're aware of who this kind of business coalition consists of. Cirque Boutique, that's me. Paradise Theater, The Refinery, Seven Trees, Second Story Studios, Trader Mags, True West Hats, Quebec Country Bistro, Chrysalis Barrel Aged Beer, The Living Farm Cafe and Inn, Louis Pizza, Nido, Mayo United Brewing, and Thomas Waldo's. And as I said, there's many others, so it's not entirely inclusive. But we're all doing our best out there, and times are tough. So we need your help.
Thank you, Amy. I would suggest, I would encourage you to talk to Corinne, get in touch with Corinne, and see if we can move forward on some of your suggestions.
I'm happy to be part of the discussion if anybody cares to ask a question or inquire, so.
Rob, did you want to?
No, I was hoping you could.
Oh, your letter?
Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me, I didn't have the phrase to drop it down.
Okay. Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to address the board? Oh, Michelle.
I just wanted to ask on these recommendations, could they all be implemented administratively, or do any of these require board decision?
Corinne, can you answer that?
Our ordinance only allows administrative approval for 4 hours or less for road closures, so the Saturday road closure would require board approval. I'm happy to look at it, would be excited to look at it. I do have some concerns with whether or not we could get everything in place and implemented that we would need to in a week. So, and that would be what would be necessary to have everything in place, although we wouldn't have board approval for a more than 4-hour road closure.
Okay, so just to make sure I'm understanding, administratively, you could work with the downtown businesses to do a 4-hour closure. Anything beyond that requires us to approve. Okay, in that case, I would like to, can I move to put this on the agenda for our next meeting, so that we could discuss and potentially take action on this?
Sure.
Thank you. I move to do that.
I'll second that, but I wanted to amend the motion. I wonder if we could consider a special meeting just for a half hour or so we could approve it before the 4th of July weekend, because that's a huge business weekend and it'd be needed. And so I would, for one, would be in favor of a special meeting in order to enact this.
Okay, would you like to set a special meeting date, time and place?
Sometime before the 4th.
All right, we'll give you the time. Could that be a Zoom meeting? Yeah, Rob?
So, to that question, I would have no issue if it was a one-time meeting. That would be a decision of the board. Later on the agenda, I'm going to request that we have a special meeting for executive session to discuss the matter of pending litigation with respect to Mr. Case, the town of Manila. And so I don't know if we wanted to tie that into this proposal.
So I guess we should just wait until you make your proposal and then we can...
No, I just want to give you a heads up. I mean, that you would probably want to tack that on to the meeting.
Okay.
I think it's totally appropriate to set this now.
Okay.
I would be asking for an additional hour for executive session.
All right, great. All right. Meeting proposal, Dave?
How about Tuesday, June 30th?
Great.
And that would be at 5:30.
Okay. All right, do we have a second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor of having a special meeting on Tuesday, June 30th at 5:30? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Yes, Suzanne?
I wanted to be recognized as a guest, or visitor.
We're just
Let
gonna
go, Okay, I thought you had done that, okay. All right, so that, yes, Michelle.
I just wanted to check with staff and make sure that's enough lead time to make preparations if the board does take action for the July 4th weekend.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And what about businesses that are opposed to closing, such as farm and ranch supply or others like that? I think that they need to be contacted and reach out into the discussion.
We can make sure that they're aware of the meeting when we post for the special meeting. And,
I would just say that, we have, we've communicated with everybody on this list in one form or another. So I would be, happy to, circle back to all of them and let them know, what we discussed here. And that, of course, one of them with Farm and Home. And we chose that time frame because it's our understanding that Hayes, who is generally the one that has an issue with the parking, that this would be after their business hours on Saturday. But of course, we're willing to work with the town, for the right time frame. So I'm happy to follow with Ms. Michelle about.
That would be important to me because, some people, when you go to affect their, potentially could affect their business as well.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So we voted on this, yes? Okay, so we have a special meeting set for June 30th at 5:30 p.m.
Thank you so
All
much.
right, you are welcome. All right.
She just spoke with what I was concerned about, so thank you.
Okay. All right, any other visitors? Yes? Okay, seeing none, let's move on to staff reports. Corinne, you are up.
Okay, to provide the Delta County update. Sorry, mine's really loud.
Yep.
The Delta County update for today is no new cases reported. They're holding at 80 cases for the county, 76 have recovered. Out of those cases, 50 are actual positive tests. The other are people that have experienced symptoms and were in direct contact with someone who did test positive. And currently, the county has 126 pending tests that they're waiting for results on right now. I will be meeting with Delta County and other municipalities later this week to discuss the Back the Badge initiative and whether they have desire to move forward with that in the November election. I continue to participate in COVID support and recovery meetings locally and virtually with the state. I continue to work with Mr. Rankema on his Riverbank subdivision modification and submittal. That will be coming forward in the future to planning and then to the Board of Trustees, as long as everything still moves forward as it has been. I'm also reviewing information, initial information that's been submitted by Lynn Mattingly regarding a revised minor subdivision plan for her Clark Avenue property. We are beginning departmental discussions in anticipation of the 2021 goals and projects because the budget season is quickly approaching. And I will be meeting with some other staff members and the members of the Paonia Youth Center Committee within the next couple of weeks to begin planning for their interior update. And that's all I have.
Oh. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Nerlin, you are up.
Thank you. So, yes, we'd like to have an executive session on that June 30th meeting as discussed. In addition to that, I've been working with Corinne Ferguson on the Riverbank subdivision. We do anticipate that an application will be before planning in July. Had an opportunity to take a look at and review both the proposed fence ordinance and the marijuana ordinance that are included in the packet. And lastly, I've been working with trustees Pattinson and Newton regarding the hiring, and Chief Ferguson regarding the potential hiring of the new Paonia disorder.
Okay, thank you both. I forgot to ask, does anyone in the audience have questions for Corinne? Nope. Any questions for both? board or the audience? No? Okay. Travis?
This thing is not working right now. We have lots of projects getting ready to start, throughout all of Public Works. We are gonna start, the week of the 7th on a spring line replacement, of 1,600 feet of new spring line over on the Gilwood side of the spring collection system. Our river sewer project, is gonna start Thursday. I thought we got all the permits for that. Then our Minnesota sewer line repair stabilization, will start, Monday. They're gonna mow in Thursday and then they'll start construction on, Monday. So I'm pretty excited to get both of those projects finished. We are gonna start doing a small project in the park where the old sandbox was. We're gonna do a pad picnic table this year, and then possibly a shelter of some sort maybe next year. The parks were pretty in rough shape for a while. They're starting to come back a little bit. Had a hard time with some scheduling issues and stuff like that and staffing levels, so we're working on getting that all fixed. And then that's all I've got unless anybody has any questions.
Any questions from the board? Yes, Bill?
When I was reading the audit today, a couple of questions came up, but one of the public works was, where do you store these street sweepers?
The street sweeper is stored at the shop.
Okay.
Did you have another question, Bill?
Well, I'm going for the police report too.
Okay. Karen?
Are we doing sidewalks this year?
Yes, we're working on a few different spots on sidewalks. Some of them are going to be contracted out, and some of them we're going to do internally. Most of the sidewalks are on Box Elder and on 3rd Street. And then there's a few fast jobs on Delta, 3rd and Delta, and then there's another one on Grand, and another one down on West 4th Street.
Any other questions? Yes, Michelle?
You mentioned a pad and a picnic table. Is that poured concrete for the pad? Has there been any consideration of using gravel or any other materials? I'm wondering why the concrete, any additional concrete in our parks gives me pause.
The biggest thing was the structure that we were designing or anticipating putting on it was about the same kind of structure as the river park is getting ready to put up. So that's why we're going to go with a concrete pad.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I have follow-up on the sidewalks question. Do any of those sidewalk repairs on Box Elder include trees?
Yes.
And are we going to have to take out trees?
There is some trees that need to be taken out. Right now I'm working on cost of tree removal right now, and then we're going to have to decide what sections we're going to do.
And have we been in touch with property owners?
Corinne has mailed out the notices of the property to the property owners.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions for Travis? Okay, questions from the public? Yes.
I just have a question. What is 1,600 feet of new spring line? What does that mean?
It's 1,600 feet of new 4-inch pipe for the spring collection system.
At the top of the water system?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. And again, people, persons in the audience, I'd appreciate it. When you ask the question, would you state your name so that we can get it in the minutes correctly?
Paige Smith, 215 Delta. Sorry.
Thank you, Paige. Okay. Moving on to the police report. I'm assuming, Corinne, you will take that one?
Like I said, we are meeting with Suffolk County and the other municipalities to talk about back the badge. I know the police department is continuing to work on code enforcement, and I can try to answer questions, but other than that, I don't have anything to report.
I have one question. Yeah, in the budget, there is a automated the drone. Where do we keep the drone at, and who's licensed to fly it?
It's in the police department, and the individual that was going to be licensed is no longer working for the town, so currently it's not being utilized by the town because we don't have a licensed operator.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions for Corinne? Yes.
I noticed in the report there were a lot of code enforcement violations noted on June 12th. I'm wondering if those were specific to landscaping, yard maintenance.
That is correct. This is in response to some inquiries, and I know the chief reported out at the last meeting that he has a staff member who is now taken on code enforcement, and so part of that and scheduling it to be routine about it is driving around, noting the addresses, and then sending out a letter instead of necessarily using the red tags for the initial contact.
Okay, I don't know if our bills are set up to allow it, but would it be possible to put a reminder annually on utility notices, just to make people aware that that's part of our code and give them a little heads up? Since we're not ticketing anyway, it might be a time saver to do that.
We can do it on a more consistent basis. We do put reminders on there about weed control, dog registration, things like that as well.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other questions from the board? Seeing none, any questions from the public? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to unfinished business. First item of unfinished business is ordinance 2020 to be determined modification of fences, hedges, and walls. Would the GAPS committee like to take this one?
Your battery.
Oh. I don't know which PC we're talking about.
Just shut it off.
Okay.
You want to just...
Sure. Kind of summarize the changes, how about that?
Sure, so this has been on the agenda a couple of times. We've had some feedback from the community that our current fence ordinance is not necessarily meeting everyone's needs. So GAPS was tasked with taking a look at it and see what we might do to make it a better fit for our community. We took into consideration some public comment, some board comment, and what's in the packet is where we're at today. We have made it a more flexible ordinance that allows for more administrative discretion on fences. Clearly, we're not a one-size-fits-all community in terms of lot sizes, fence locations, fence heights, things like that. So this just gives the staff a little more discretion in approving fences that still meet the pedestrian character of our streets and that don't have an impact on public safety.
Okay, thank you very much, Michelle. Can we get a motion on the table to approve this ordinance? That we approve the ordinance. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Discussion from the board.
Yeah, I have a comment.
Yes, Bill?
Section 2, number 2, it says no fences may be extended across the property line. But what about hedges and walls? That's mentioned in the current ordinance, and it's not in this one.
So in the very top section, Bill, it calls out that when we refer to fences further in the ordinance, it does apply to all fences, walls, and hedges. Just to simplify the language a little bit.
Any other questions from the board?
One more question.
Sure.
So we have a building official who's going to do the inspections, but we also expect to have it down clerk or a designee inspected. Do they have special training, or how do we know if they're qualified to inspect it?
There isn't any special training that I'm aware of. The inspection is based on, does it adhere to our guidelines? Is it impacting visibility? In practice, this is already how our fences are being reviewed in some cases. So this brings the ordinance more in line with what we're already doing.
Okay, and then on number 7, on the second page, the town administrator may grant a permit for fences and walls that exceed the maximum height. But I feel like this should be going in front of the planning commission. You know, one individual runs out and approves it without any comments or anything from the neighbors, and that's what we have a planning commission for. And there's a couple of examples in Haley where one person approves something they actually got because they thought it was right. For instance, this overheight building that sits down over here, and another overheight building that sits up there underneath for a pitch. So one person approves, and then it comes back. We find out later as a board that these weren't meeting the code. I don't think that the town administrator should be able to grant a permit. I think it needs to go before the planning commission.
Thank you, Bill. Any other comments or questions?
Can I help on that?
Yes, please do.
So I'm not opposed to that. Really, the big reason we took that out is our current variance process is extremely expensive and time consuming for someone who might have a fence 6 inches over the 4-foot height restriction. It's a lot of extra work and cost to put our community through for that. If we could have an alternative process and still put it before the planning commission to create that second set of control, I would be comfortable with that. I also really liked in Deborah Spiegel's application for her fence variance, she did include letters from her neighbors in support of it. I think that's a great idea, and it might be something that we would add as a requirement as well.
Well, the reason why we arrived at the process where we have to send out the letter to everybody is because in the past, things got approved with other people that don't know about it and didn't have any objections to it. So, over time, the process was solidified in the fact that we'll send out certified letters and a formal process. I think without a formal process, you're not including the public. If you want to put something in there that says approval of a 6-inch overheight is one thing, but I didn't read that in there.
No, we actually took that out based on Denver's fence ordinance, which doesn't put they don't specify a height restriction, they leave it at the discretion of their staff. Or at least I personally feel that I trust our staff to make that decision, but I understand where you're coming from, that historically that there may have been created some issues. So I'm open to ways to remedy that. I would like to see something a little less stringent than the variance process that's currently in place for such a minor change.
Well, we think it's minor until the one person that's agreed has a problem. And then it's not minor. It's minor to us, maybe, but it's not minor to the person that's affected. So I would move that we have rewrite number 7 to say that the process will go to the planning commission. Well, first of all, the town administrator may approve the 6-inch variance. But if of that, it's probably go to the planning commission.
So you're amending the motion?
I am.
Okay, do we have a second? Okay, would you repeat that, Bill, so we can make sure we have it down the way you want it?
I say that the town administrator may grant a permit for fence walls that exceed the maximum height by 6 inches. Period, and then anything above that has to go to the planning commission.
Okay, so we have Do we have a second on that?
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second that the town administrator can administratively approve a 6-inch variance, but then anything beyond that has to go to the planning commission. Okay. Do we have any other comment from the board? Yes, David.
I'm just wondering, does this imply that they have to have a variance process, or can the final decision be made by planning and zoning? I just want to make sure it's really simple, and it's not just this cumbersome process.
Do we have an opinion on that, Bill?
I know we think it's cumbersome. And perhaps the town could consider sending letters with a certificate of delivery versus certified mail, whatever we're sending out. But I think the fact that it needs to go to the planning commission and needs to get recommendations to the board. I think if we above 6 inches, we need to hold to that process because this is where the town has arrived at over time, and it's worked. Try to throw that in the trash heap and start all over the new process. If it suits one individual, we're putting other people at risk, the people that may be affected that not aware of it, without having to follow the process.
So to Dave's point, would this be via a variance, or would it be just taken to the planning commission, period?
And also the planning commission makes recommendations to the board. The board's the one that passes the action.
So it would not be a variance, it would just be have to go to the planning commission.
Pass the planning commission make recommendations to the board.
Okay.
The board acts.
All right, thank you for that clarification. Any other questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, any questions, comments from the public? Yes.
Do I have to stand up?
Please, and say your name.
Okay, I don't know if you can hear me when my back is turned, so I'm going over here. I really appreciate, this kind of attempt to make it a little bit of an easier process. But the concern I have, when you administratively allow even a 6-inch difference in height, is this is all fine when it's between someone's property and town property. That when you're making this determination of a fence on the boundary between two private property owners, I don't think the town should be getting involved in saying, without going through the due process afforded by the variance process, sure, you can have a fence 6 inches higher, because I certainly would have a problem if that happened between me and my neighbor. What if I was on the outs with my neighbor and I didn't even know what the plan was, and he's uphill from me? How do I know, that the ordinance is actually being applied correctly? Because his fence can only be 6 feet in the side yard from the elevation of the ground at the lot line. So that might mean that if he puts it a little bit back, it has to be even less than 6 feet. I want to know about this. I want to know what's being proposed here so I can make sure my property rights are being protected. I would have a problem because he's on the south side of me and he's uphill from me. And I wouldn't want an inch more than what's allowed there. And I don't want to be put in the position of having to take him to court because of a town decision, because I can't afford that. I mean, I think I'd rather see him paying for the cost of the variance, because I don't want the financial burden to end up on my shoulders as someone who's going to have a civil dispute now over a fence that was built on the property line. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. All right, any other comments from the public? Yes.
H. Smith, 215 Delta, and I appreciate the changes you made to the ordinance, but I have just a point of clarification with number 7. The town administrator may grant a permit for fences and walls, which in the beginning of this new ordinance, fences encompasses walls and hedges. And I'm assuming you didn't mean hedges to be under this, but if that's the case, I would clarify fences with maybe excluding hedges or something so that you don't have mixed definitions.
Thank you, I didn't realize we still had an inconsistent piece of language in there. Thanks for cleaning it up.
Okay, any other comments from the public?
I have a question. Are we just talking about, this change in the height, or is the whole ordinance?
Well, we have an amended motion, so we're voting on the amendment to the motion.
Thank you.
Okay. Bo, did you have something?
Yeah, it was just unclear to me with respect to, is the proposal that the town administrator may grant, a variance allowing for a 6-inch increase, provided the other standards are complied with under 7, 1, 2, 3, and 4?
That's my understanding.
And so I just wanted a clarification on that, and then in the event that those are either not complied with or it's in excess of 6 inches, then any applicant would need to go for a variance under section A or 181040.
Yes, that's my understanding. Michelle?
I thought we said that it wouldn't be a formal variance process, that it would be referred to the planning commission and then on to the board, but without necessarily following the full formal variance requirements. Was that, or maybe I misunderstood the way that was presented?
Well, the way I understand the process, somebody would have a project that's going to be higher than the allowed height plus 6 inches. Has to come before the planning commission and present the project as well as notify the neighbors and people affected. And get published in the paper and everything else. People have a right to comment. Take away that right, I think is wrong.
Okay.
So just to make sure I understand. So your amendment does include the requirement for the full variance process for any deviation beyond 6 inches?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we're all on the same, no, not yet. Correct.
One more point of clarification. If the amendment is passed and it's only a 6-inch variation, I don't think number 2 under section 7 is applicable, because I don't think we would require them to put a 6-inch area that was see-through or 50% visibility if it was a wood fence or something to that nature. So I just want them to be aware of that as well. That would be a difficult task to hold someone to.
Okay. All right, we have a motion, and we have an amended motion, so we're going to vote on the amendment to the main motion, which has to do with the town administrator being able to approve a 6-inch height change, and then it has to go, beyond that, it has to go to the planning commission. Correct? Okay. All in favor?
Can I just ask one question? I just want to comment.
All right, this is the last one, Suzanne. This is 3 times on one subject, so.
Oh, I only commented once. So what I'd like to ask is, perhaps you can amend this motion to grant that administrative approval of a 6-inch variation for between a private property and the town property. And anything to do between private property owners does have to go through the noticing process, so the homeowner next door can know what's being planned next to their property. I mean, I'm perfectly amenable to it between the town and the property owner, but I'm very uncomfortable thinking that you can just, what's the good of having an ordinance if you can look at it and it doesn't apply? You have no way of knowing if your neighbor's gonna do this right next to you.
Okay, thank you, Suzanne. All right. All yes, Karen.
I just want to notice that the way it's written, it says upon application. So it assumes that the person would not just go to Corinne and say, I want to do this, and she says yes. It's upon application, and that application probably does include, letters to your neighbors and whatever the application includes. And so there's a certain amount that would get done at just a 6-inch level.
Okay. All in, yes. Nick.
Okay, I would still like to get clarification. Does the process have to go through the variance as we're talking here? It will have to. Okay, thank you.
All right, let's try to vote one more time. Okay, we're voting on the amendment to the main motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay, let's do a roll call on that.
Trustee Bear?
Aye.
Trustee Benninger? Trustee Johnson?
Nay.
Trustee Vincent?
Aye.
Trustee Rick? Trustee Patterson?
Nay.
Okay. The amendment fails. So we have the main motion, which leaves the amendment off. So you have a comment on the main motion, Michelle?
I would like to propose an alternative amendment to try and reach some compromise on this. My proposal would be to go back to administrative review. The approval of a fence outside of our code would require all three department heads, that is administration, public safety, and public works, to sign off on the change, saying that it doesn't impact public safety or the character of the town. And the application would be revised to include statements from any adjoining neighbors in support of the deviation from standards and height.
Okay. And do you have a method for notifying those neighbors?
It would be the responsibility of the property owner to contact the neighbors and supply letters of support.
Okay. Do we have a second on that amendment?
I second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Comments from the board?
I like it.
Bill?
Well, it may include the neighbors, doesn't include the public. So, that's one of the things that our formal process has now. There's a structured process that we follow, that everybody gets notified. And I think that the fact that we're going to change this process now is not going to serve us well in the future.
Thank you, Bill. Any other comments? Okay. So we have an amendment to the main motion that the three department heads would be notified of this and they would have to sign off on it, and that the petitioner would have to contact the neighbors and bring in letters of support. Vote.
Is this a proposed amendment to the ordinance and then you're looking to have an introduction, or would you like this as direction and then the revised ordinance be placed before the board for introduction at the next board meeting?
I'd be interested in your recommendation on that.
I would prefer to be able to present a clean copy of the proposed ordinance to the board of trustees and receive any comments before then, to the extent there's confusion or anything along those lines.
Okay, thank you both. So then, my understanding is a vote of nay on the amendment and then a vote of nay on the approval could bring that process about, correct?
I could see an approval of this as being direction, and then we'll just put the proposed ordinance before the board at the first July meeting.
So, we would approve the amendment, approve the thing, and then bring back a clean copy in July. Okay. All right, Bill,
I
Dave.
just want to be clear, so if we don't approve the amendment, the ordinance stands as it is, and we can approve that. We don't need to do anything else.
Correct. Correct.
The nay vote on the amendment would keep the ordinance as it reads,
Yep.
and then we would vote on the ordinance. Okay, I just want to be clear.
Okay.
Be clear about my vote.
I get it, yeah. It's gotten kind of confusing. All right, so, all in favor of the amendment to the main motion, say aye.
Aye.
And nay? Nay?
Nay.
roll call.
Aye.
Nay.
Okay, we have 3 ayes and motion carries, or the amendment carries.
I'm really missing trustee Matt because we could have had some tie votes in the mayor.
The mayor is okay with not voting. Okay, so now we're to the main motion as amended. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay.
We have, that motion passes. Okay, thank you very much. That's been a long and arduous process.
Is there more discussion on
No,
that?
it's done.
There's some other issues with it that I wanted to bring up, and it didn't have to do with this specific
Okay.
amendment.
Well, I'm sorry, Suzanne, that you should have brought those up prior to that, because the motion has been passed. It will come back in July.
Okay, the grant of power.
No, Suzanne, no, I'm sorry. We're gonna move on. All right, next item on the agenda is the public hearing on the Spiegel fence variance. I think this is a moot point since we have just passed the ordinance and she falls under the ordinance. Is that correct? No, it's not correct.
No, so I do believe ultimately I will leave it up to Ms. Spiegel, but I do believe she may want her variance request to be heard because the ordinance has been referred to second read, so if that next ordinance doesn't pass, she would need to start this process over. I would add the caveat though that with the ordinance presented and under review, that her request is less stringent than the modified ordinance would be, and so if the modified ordinance does pass, I would request from the board at that future meeting, second meeting in July, that I be able to present a request to refund some fees that Ms. Spiegel's paid for her variance process.
Okay, Ms. Spiegel, would you like to address the board on this issue?
Sure. Thank you for modifying the fence ordinance. I was on the corner of 3rd and Orchard. I don't know if you can hear me. I think you've all read my thing. Do I need to explain it?
No. Well, let's do this. Let's get a motion on the table to approve this.
So, if I can,
Yes, please.
So, first, I do want to make the board aware, this was before the planning commission last evening, a very quick turnaround because of the amount of time that Ms. Spiegel's put into this and the delay outside of standard process due to COVID. Typically, an application has to be reviewed and referred to the planning commission within 30 days, and this application was actually received beginning of May. We worked pretty closely going over it and taking necessary steps that we needed to get it before the board as quick as we could. So that's why there's no information in the packet on the planning commission recommendation because it happened last night, but the planning commission did recommend approval. I did include in the summary all of the information as far as the application variance process, that it was applied for and approved on May 1st and referred to the planning commission following. And also stated that while there isn't clear guidance in the municipal code for the planning commission or the board of trustees when it comes to reviewing a variance, there is clear guidance for when a variance should be permitted when there is a request for review of a decision at the zoning board of adjustment. So that was the criteria I used in my review process, and my recommendation also that Ms. Spiegel's variance request be approved.
Thank you for that clarification, Fran.
You're welcome.
So do I need to open like a special hearing and close the special hearing and all of that? Okay, well, we are opening the public hearing on the Spiegel fence variance. Are there questions, comments from the board? Yes, Dave.
I think Citizen Spiegel has been incredibly patient. I believe it was last spring. she first came. I think I was new to the council at the time, and that problem still exists for her. It seems like it's been punishing to wait this long for her to get the kind of fence she needs, but I have to admire her perseverance.
Okay, any questions or other comments from the board? Okay, hearing none, anything from the public? Okay, seeing none. Do I now close? Okay, I am closing the special hearing, or the public hearing. Now, do we vote on the ordinance, or vote on the variance? Okay, I would like a motion to approve this variance.
I move that we approve the variance for the Spiegel fence.
I'll second.
Okay. Any more discussion? Okay. All in favor? Opposed? All opposed? Okay, that motion carries unanimously. Congratulations! Ms. Spiegel, you have a variance. Okay, moving on. We're at number 6, ordinance 2020 to be determined regarding the regulation and licensing of retail marijuana establishments. So, at this point in time, are we looking to approve this, or is this discussion only, is it?
I would defer to the, I think it came out of gaps in terms of what they want to do.
Yeah.
But as I understand the process, the goal would be to present the concept before the board, and the extent that there is a question regarding the licensing of retail marijuana presented before the voters in November, it's my understanding the committee wants to have the rules that would be in place if that question is passed. And so this template is provided, I believe, for discussion because we will have at least through the month of July and into August, there's changes that we come about.
Thank you very much, Bo. Gaps, Michelle and Rick, do you have an opinion as to what you would like to do with this?
I don't know if it requires a vote, but I would like some board confirmation in terms of the ordinance language so that we can use that to craft the ballot language in a very clear way.
Okay. All right, discussion from the board. Go, Karen.
Just have questions. In addition to this ordinance, which would say that we're legally allowed to do this, there would be additional local rules and regulations that the town would set up. Is that correct?
My understanding is those are all within the ordinance.
Okay,
So that sets not only the voters would set the ability for us to do it, and then the ordinance lays out how we do it with all of our town's regulations.
Okay, there's something missing here is Healy, Evan knows all about it. The town that we're modeled this after, I understood, was Memphis, and they have a transaction fee, quote, transaction fee, that's not mentioned in this at all. And I don't know where that would get mentioned, and that's why I was asking if there were additional rules or that the town would.
Yep, that's a great question, and that is something we were looking at. This ordinance is actually based on the ordinance that was used the last time it was put to a vote here with some modifications to bring it more in line with what Mancos is doing and to remove industrial uses, so it would be retail shops only. But in terms of the transaction fee, my understanding is that we were waiting for some legal clarification on how that works. But the GAPS committee's discussion, our recommendation of the committee would be to have a per transaction fee and require that for the first, I can't remember if we said 1 or 2 years, but that would be up for discussion, that would be allocated toward infrastructure. And for every year after that, the board would make a decision during budget on how to allocate for the following year.
On the transaction fee only. And then the sales tax, which is regular sales tax.
Mr. Earl?
Just for clarification, and I think it's a really good point, trustee Buttigieg, and trustee Pattinson, but it's a taxing process that we have to go through. If it's an increased sales tax beyond what your typical collection of sales tax would be, or the transactional fee, or something along those lines. So that would also be a question for the voters, either as early as November 2020 or at a subsequent municipal election.
We need to have transaction fees.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think at one point we discussed that if we have multiple fees and sales taxes on the November ballot, chances are they're not going to pass. And one of the reasons that maybe the last one didn't pass is because there was already that built into it. So if we pass the legislation now, get the retail shops up and running, collect sales tax on them, and then the following election or whenever, then we can talk about imposing extra taxes or transaction fees or whatever. Do we? Okay, Dave?
I just don't like that approach. I'd rather have the voters know exactly what they're voting on when they vote and not have two issues sitting on the ballot where one gets passed and the other does not. And then our hands are tied. We've had that happen before. And so I'm wondering why we can't just use the information from Mancos and pass the same, and put before the voters the same focus so that they know what they're voting on, the rules are in place. I don't know why we can't do that. And I guess that's a question for the attorney.
There's no reason we can't do it. I've spoken directly to Mancos' attorney. They had a taxing question before the voters. So it's my understanding with respect to the structure, the board approved, just at the board level, the sale of retail marijuana, and subsequent to that, with any facts under favor, you have to present it to the voters.
And so again, the thought is, in November, we pass the ordinance that allows us to set up retail marijuana. The subsequent municipal election, the tax issue would come. So it would not be on the same ballot. It would be on two separate elections that it would be broken up.
And I'm just speaking. I don't want to wait that long. I basically want to see the voters vote on a tax thing and then the implications of that. We've already passed as a board, so I would suggest that we as a board pass the ordinance we need to pass. And then the voters give us the authorization to tax. So, we get to do it in one fell swoop is what I'm trying to get at. I just think it gets too complicated if you bring too many, we'll figure that out later. And then the election starts getting really complicated for people. So, I'm just really trying to go after simplicity here and trying to get it done in one fell swoop. So that's just me trying to make it simple.
Okay, Karen?
It was my understanding that the transaction fee is not a tax.
That's incorrect.
How can I understand that?
They had a tax, they had a voting question. So, one other thing is, it can be one question in terms of, should we allow for retail marijuana and then licensing of retail marijuana and then have the fee component as a part of that single. It doesn't have to be two questions. It could be one quick question submitted to the voters. Oftentimes, though, we see two questions because sometimes municipalities say, hey, look, we would love to see where the voters are. And if they want retail marijuana, great, we can at least get the sales tax. Oh, by the way, if the voters want to have a tax on, so that you could have, you could have the retail voted and then maybe the tax, if you will.
My understanding is that the transaction fee did not go to the state. It went directly to the town.
It's a tax that the voters of the town of Mancos approve. And that is collected and remitted into the town general fund. But it's a tax. And it went to the voters.
Okay. Yes, Fran?
I would add some clarification, so we're talking about that it's taxed and collected, but it is not collected by the state. The state will only collect the 7.9%, our standard sales tax, and, for the county, state, town, at the town level. An additional occupation tax or transaction tax, that will have to be monitored and collected by the town, to the town.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
My memory is very flawed, so I thought I remembered that we had 2 initiatives on a previous ballot, one passed and one didn't. That they allowed us to collect the tax, but they didn't let us open the stores, and that's what I want to stay away from.
Right, and so the way those questions were laid out was, the first question was, shall the town of Paonia allow? And then the second question was, if the town of Paonia allows, shall we tax at this increment? And so they said, a lot of people said, no, we don't want the town to do it, but if it passes, yes, we want you to tax it.
Okay, do we have any other comments or questions about the ordinance as it is written? Yes, Michelle?
I would just say that I agree with Dave. If we have a plan rather than spreading it out, I'd like to put it before the voters, and I do like the idea of having it as 2 separate questions, and I understand that can put us in a weird situation, but it would be a better reflection of where our voters actually stand on the 2 separate questions.
Okay. All right, well, I do have one question. So, these rules that you came up with, how does this differ from licensing for alcohol?
I'm not sure which rules you're referring to.
I mean, the ordinance, the proposed ordinance that you gave us, lays out licensing and all of that. I was just curious, was all of this based on alcohol licensing?
Yeah, it's something, if I may.
Yeah.
It's similar in that there's the dual licensing approach, just like we have for alcohol, where you have the clerk and they take the local application and then you have the state application. So it is that same concept. And in addition to that, we can be more restrictive or less restrictive than what's allowable by the state. So things like the 500 feet from the child care facilities, to the extent that the town effectively felt like, well, we want to be more restrictive, and we want 1,000 feet, you could, in essence, do that. To the extent that you felt like, well, we need to lessen that to 200 feet, or else there's not a space that's available, you could do that as well. Did that get to your question, Mary?
Yes, it did, very much so. Thank you both. Okay, any other board comments, questions? Okay, from the public. Yes, you did.
I wanted to speak to the taxation issue, and my recollection was, since this is governed under Tabor, the Tabor Amendment, you can only allow tax questions in a general election in even years. So if you don't do it this fall, you're gonna have to wait 2 years before you can ask for a taxation question again. And I don't know if that still stands, or if I misunderstand that.
Yep. That's somewhat correct, Suzanne. So you could do in November of 2020, you could do in November of 2021, or you could do in April of 2022 or 2023.
Okay, so there'd be a definite lag.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion or comment? All right, hearing none, I guess carry on, Gas. All right, next. Number 7, One Delta County Intergovernmental Agreement and Funding Approval. So we had a presentation from Delta One last time, and so what's on the board now is approval of joining that organization and remitting them the $1,122. So, can I get a motion on the table on this?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I'd like to authorize you to sign the intergovernmental agreement and approve joining the One Delta County.
Okay, do you have a second on that motion?
I'll second.
All discussion from the board.
It's a good idea.
Well, especially considering what our businesses are going through. Yes, Michelle?
Do we need to designate our representative at this time, or will that, would it continue to be Corinne, or will that be decided later?
Yes, you can do any of the above.
Okay.
Is there a wish to designate someone?
If I could add to my motion that we designate Corinne as our representative.
Okay. Do we have a second on that addition?
And add to the motion payment of the fee.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right.
So we have the amendment which would make Corinne the designated person and the motion to pay the fee. Okay. All right. So we have that. Let's see, so we have the amendment.
Could I restate the motion?
Please restate the motion.
I'd like to move that we authorize the mayor to sign the intergovernmental agreement with One Delta County. We approve the payment of the fee of Delta County, and we designate Corinne as our representative. Did I miss anything?
Thank you, Dave. All right, we have a second on it. Okay.
All right. All right.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any other discussion aside from the fact that this is a really good idea and let's help our businesses however we can? Yes, great.
I'll just add that the One Delta County committee, some of the members that attended at the presentation did want me to extend their apologies that they weren't able to attend this evening, but there were several other meetings. And just to provide an update to the town that all but one community now have signed the agreement. There's one more community that is going before their board later this week. So they'll be happy that One Delta County is actually One Delta County.
Cool. And pay on this part of it. Okay, we have a motion and a second, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hearing none, the motion carried. Thank you. We are part of one. Okay, carrying on. Next item on the agenda is Jay Canode and the Kansas Skate Park update. Jay, the floor is yours.
I'm Jay Canode. I live at 223 Doris, Town in Pennsylvania. So, give you the update for the skate park. Some tremendous momentum has come our way lately at the skate park over the last couple of weeks. Well, basically, I'll just give you a rundown of all our contributions so far in terms of going towards the matching funds we need to go for a GoGo grant. Western Colorado Community Fund has donated $1,500 from a small grant. The Camp Foundation has donated $5,000. We have a GoFundMe that's been going on for the past year. In the past week, that's increased double, and that's just over $6,000. And those contributions amount from over 60 different individual contributors, and the vast majority of those being residents of Paonia and the Valley at large, but mostly Paonia. And then the biggest one today, we just learned that the North Fork Pool Park and Rec District has donated $10,000 from their fund towards the skate park. So very, very excited about all this that's happening. My main reason to be here tonight is to go over the sponsorship program that I created. But as well, a couple weeks back, I went to Delta County to ask for a substantial amount of money from the county, from the mineral funds that they have. I asked for $40,000. They did not give me an answer. They want to know from our partners what kind of contributions we will get from our partners. And so thus far, North Fork Park and Rec District has been a major partner. That has kind of really shifted over to the town now, in terms of the town being the fiscal agent and the overseer, the manager of the skate park. And so what I'd really like you all to consider is what kind of resources that you can give to the skate park in short order. And I say short order because I would really like to use this momentum that we're getting, go for a couple other grants, and then be able to actually use these matching funds to go for the GoCo grant in September of this year. So there's a lot of dominoes that we're stacking up, and we'd like to, keep stacking them up and prepare for that grant in September. In terms of project costs, $300,000 is overall project cost that we're going towards. That's not expensive for a skate park. It's certainly not cheap for a skate park. But when looking at neighboring communities, all over the state, skate parks range $100,000 to $1 million, up over $1 million. So it's kind of on the low end for a skate park. Concrete is expensive, and we talked to a couple different contractors that this is what they do for a living to come up with that number. We have some preliminary designs. Really, just the preliminary designs are more like place setters to get the public excited about things. Really, how I would see the process moving forward. Once we get our funds in place, we put out an RFP and get a skate park contractor on board to make this happen. Right now, the plan is all rather ambiguous in terms of where and exactly what. Right now we're kind of basing that figure of $300,000 off of square footage, roughly 5,000 to 7,000 square feet of park space is kind of what that would get you with regards to all the concrete that's involved. Let's see if I'm leaving anything off there. No, I guess I'm not leaving anything else. Do you have questions?
Questions for Jay from the board?
Dave?
I'm not really clear whether you're asking for in-kind services here or specifically for a dollar amount.
Yeah, so my understanding from Corinne is that, if we ask for money, it's not going to be until you guys do the budget in December. And that's a little bit late for our purposes. But what can help is in kind. And so $75,000 is what we're trying to raise on the ground level right now. That's the goal. I believe it's either 25 or 30% of that can be chalked up to in-kind donations. And so if we're able to achieve that goal, 75,000, which ultimately would go to a grant and translate into 300,000. These are all what ifs. These are all, just a plan, just something to focus on. Then the location for the skate park could be where it is now, over at Family Town Park, the old tennis courts. But it could also be in another location that might make more sense financially with regard to having to demolish the current concrete slab that exists where it is now. And so we have discussed a little bit of potential for moving the skate park about 50 yards north to where the old baseball diamond used to be. And that way it's all dirt there. And the town, that's kind of where the town could come in with in-kind, is to help with moving dirt around, moving fill in, heavy equipment, things of that nature. That's where I see the in-kind possibilities of the town coming in. Beyond that, there's probably more that I just haven't really thought of at this point. Corinne did mention that there are sprinklers in place there right now that are being utilized. Those would have to be addressed, probably relocated, capped off or whatever, if the skate park moved and it made sense to do that. I think both those locations are good locations. There's already a parking lot there. There's already some delineations. There's not going to be a hell of a lot of extra expense beyond the skate park to make those locations feasible. We'll want some bleachers for spectators will want probably a little bit of landscaping to spruce things up a little bit, and probably some low-lying fencing as well.
Any other questions from the board?
So both locations are town-owned property, is that correct? Does the use of the property itself count toward in-kind contributions by the
I
town?
don't know. I don't know if you can quantify like what the worth of the land might be. Something I'd have to find out.
Okay. I think it would be worth looking into if there could be a per acre for undeveloped land or something like that you can pull funds. But if the town is providing that land, then it's being removed from any other possible use, and I think the value would be part of the in-kind in that case.
I have a feeling no is going to be the answer, just because it's, town giving the town land, it's going to remain town property, town managed.
Yeah, okay. I'm wondering, and I think this is more a staff question, are there any other similar organizations that we've granted support to, whether in-kind or financial, in the last couple of years that we know of?
We have granted in-kind to other locations. We provided in-kind work with Western Slope Conservation Center for the installation of the picnic area and the covering, different things like that. It's not uncommon. And I would add, and please correct me if I misstate anything, but this is really a preliminary, a continued preliminary support as well. It's not the first time that Jay's come before the board and had a lot of support, kind of when we pre-COVID with lots of kids and family members came to speak out in favor of the skate park. But the design is still very fluid. It's really contingent upon whether or not it would be a modification of the existing, or if the money comes rolling in, an extension or relocation. So it's a little bit unclear. And while I do believe he's accurate and that the land being town-owned could be included as an in-kind or a financial, because it's not an actual donation, it can be used in letters of support when other entities are going to. And so when they ask, what are your other supporting agencies providing to you, things like in-kind with equipment and staff, well, that's quantifiable. There's the use of property and the long-term use of a piece of town property. We did discuss the installation of a new barrier and replacement of most of the 6-foot barrier walls. We do want to maintain one high, actually I believe it's 8 or 10 feet.
No, it's more like 12.
The one side that is the division between the residential and the park and the landscaping to add additional town barriers. But those kind of things are things that can be listed, as well as the town's committed to do these things and the town's committed to discuss any additional contributions within the 21 budget or future budgets, depending on how long it takes to really get it all, the ducks in a row, and actually start breaking ground and completing a project like this.
As I understand it, we apply for the GoPro grant in September. I think they will award those in March 2021. So yeah, it would be at that point where we would have some much more substantial decisions to make. But really, in terms of the pressure that's on right now, I think the county's a really big piece of the puzzle. I asked them for $40,000. They didn't say no, but they did want to know what kind of other support that our partners were going to supply. And so that's kind of paramount right now, is to be able to go back to them as soon as possible and say, hey, this is what our partners have ponied up and are willing to help us with. Certainly the town, I think even a token sum would go a long way. The town is not swimming in money. I don't expect a lot of money to come from town. But
Yes, Dave.
A couple things come to mind. We have a piece of property that we just recently had appraised behind the library. And if that is dedicated to the there's a certain amount of money that was worth. And if the skate park is put there behind the library, it would help those kids encouraged to read more too. So that, and then the other thing is maybe we could direct staff to come up with an estimate of what we could possibly do as far as in-kindness, financial, public works, those kind of things, so that our citizen here has something to go back to the county.
Yeah, and I can talk with a couple of the contractors, the skate park contractors that I've been speaking with, and pick their brains. You know, they do several of these things a year throughout the West, and I'm sure they have some good ideas about what has helped them out and what's been successful for them as well.
Okay, great. So it sounds like the board would like to direct staff to come up with some numbers that could quantify the in-kind contribution of the town that we can then provide Jay to take to the county commissioners. Great.
And with that, do I have authorization from the board to put that information into the letter of support or the template letter with some modifications to get that? Because I know that he was looking for a July 1st turnaround, and we don't meet again before. And I wouldn't be able to do all of that and have that to you by the special date, so.
Well, perhaps we should put a limit on the number two.
I'm sorry.
Bill, I can hear.
Perhaps the board should set an upper limit on the amount of in-kind donations from $5,000, $10,000 for the town that it would be.
Well, I think we need some input from the staff before we can even come up with a ballpark figure on that. Yeah, Dave?
I don't want to make this special meeting too long, but we have a meeting June 30th, and whatever the staff comes up with, we could review it then, and that might alleviate any concerns that we might have about going too long.
I just have concerns about the amount of time that I'm going to need to put into the additional street closures and the applications and that process with the business owners to guarantee that I would have that turnaround, and then for him to supply that to the board. Our meeting is in the evening on June 30th, and we have the July 1st timeline that we're aiming for. Would you prefer that we wait until that final hour to include numbers, or do I have to move forward more general?
July 1st is arbitrary, so as close to that as possible. You know, again, there's, I'm going to use the information that you come up with for a couple other grants, as well as the county. You know, so yeah, it doesn't have to be by July 1st, but really, time is of the essence.
So Corinne, are you comfortable with doing something on your own? Is that what you're thinking? And then maybe we should discuss with Trustee Bear what we think is a reasonable cap. Is that what you're asking?
I just wanted to know if the July, I know that in initial conversations, July 1st was a big day for looking for all of these to be in a row. If that's not the case, the board doesn't meet again until July 14th.
14th?
Yes.
And so at that point, within like a day or two after that meeting, we might be able to present.
Yes. So if you want quantifiable numbers based on information from your contractors and based on estimation of town time that we can include to the board so they could see what that window looks like, we would need to wait until July 14th. If you are comfortable with a more generalized letter saying these are the things we're going to offer, but there's no dollar amount included, then the board could move forward with that.
Got it. Okay, let's go ahead and try it for the 14th. I'll let the county know, and just get them on board, and I'm sure it will be fine. Yeah, I think that would be fine.
So, suggestion, if I may. I understand how important these letters can be. I wonder if we could have a more general support letter that doesn't detail anything, but just says, yes, the town is in support of this project will be on town land. A detailed addendum lining out our our in-kind contributions, that we have a letter that's clear that we're in support, and then when we get to our July 14th meeting, we will have enough time, staff will have enough time to put those details together and present that as an addendum. Would that be helpful?
Sure, that'd be great.
And that's doable, correct?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Did you have a comment to this?
I have been following this very carefully, so maybe I'm missing information, but is there any kind of visuals that you've come up with, like drawings of what it would look like?
Yeah,
Or-
they're really like, I mean, the last meeting that we had here, I had visuals and I probably used the same visuals. But this early in the game, it's kind of hard to.
I was just thinking with the county commissioners and whatever, when you're asking for money, it's kind of nice to actually have a visual of what we are
I've
potentially.
shown them, yeah. At the last meeting, I had visuals for them. I had various pictures and diagrams and all that good stuff.
And I do want to point out, if we move it from the old skate park, we're going to have to, the town is going to have to undertake some kind of remediation to that, unless it's going to be an abandoned, cracked up concrete slab, so.
Maybe the basketball court in town.
Really, okay. That might be a good repurposing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Suzanne. All right, so Corinne has her direction, and we look forward to seeing you on the 14th.
Okay,
Thank you.
Right, very good. So, and then one last thing here, and that would be the sponsorship. In your packet, you should have my sponsorship proposal that just basically breaks down sponsorship levels. The memorial, I call it the memorial. The memorial is being designed by Ira Housework. It's basically a great big skateboard, about man size, probably with some of his cute little animals on it somewhere. And the sponsorship levels will be on that sculpture. And in terms of what that will be, I mean, I'm open to in memory of, or it could be a corporate sponsorship. I don't know, something along those lines. And so that, I guess that's, really something that needs to be run by the town, is are they okay with corporate sponsorships and things of that nature when it comes to this. I have nothing lined up. This is all just another piece of the puzzle to get more funding. I think it'd be great if we didn't have to do this, but at the very least, if the county comes through, it's going to be nice to be able to have a plaque of some sort to thank the contributors to the skate park. So that's kind of what this is all about. Do you have any concerns about who might get put on a memorial sculpture?
Confederate generals.
Yeah.
Say that again.
Confederate generals.
No members of the Confederacy. Period.
No, nothing like that.
Yeah, I would say generally it should be something that aligns reasonably well with community values in Paonia, and I don't think that needs to be very exclusive, but if there's any question, maybe if it could come before the board before it's permanently etched, just to let us know what's going up there.
You mean in terms of like if I got a sponsorship from the devil or something?
Right.
You mean Koch brothers?
Got it, okay. Hopefully I'll be able to fill it out. But again, it's just a piece of puzzle.
Beggars can't be choosers.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jay.
Thank you.
And we look forward to seeing you again, and hopefully we'll have some numbers for you.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you so much, Jay. All right, next on the agenda is the Western Slope Conservation Center. Draft letter to the BLM, and again, Ben, thank you for your patience on all of this.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, it's nice to be here in person, actually, after listening to a couple of virtuals. So yeah, Ben Katzen, Full Claims Program Program Director at the Western Soil Conservation Center. I'm here today to talk about the Bureau of Land Management's Resource Management Plan for the Inland Powder Field Office, which includes our town of and North Fork Valley. I'd like to start with like a very quick overview, because this process has been going on for a long time, and then hopefully get to the reason that I'm here. So this process started in 2010, about 10 years ago, where the Bureau of Land Management, which manages all public land basically from our area, west of Utah and south, just to about Ridgeway, a little bit south of Ridgeway. They started revising their land management plan, which essentially controls essentially directs all of the projects and activities on their land for the next 20 plus years. The current one that was in place before the one that they just finalized was from 1983, so that was 37 years or so. So back in 2016 was the first kind of draft comment period where the BLM released a bunch of alternatives for different ways that they could manage their plan, for which Western Soil Conservation Center and the town both supported the North Fork alternative. There's a sub-alternative B1. And again, if I can answer any questions as they come up. So that was sub-alternative B-1 or B.1. It was a community-supported alternative. Basically, a group of stakeholders all came together to write that in the BLM's language to protect the resources of the town that we think are important. And again, the town supported it in their comment letter, and I included that in your packet. So then the BLM they received 52,000 comments. Those include form letters and personalized letters, but that just kind of goes to show the amount of people that were engaged in this process. Back last summer, we were back here because the BLM had basically taken all the comments, digested them, and then released what their proposed plan was. And again, some of you guys on the council were here and remember that protest letter that was signed. But again, that was a letter signed by the town that was in protest, basically where the BLM had not taken the comments into consideration. So that was back July of 2019. And then again, there are a couple other administrative processes that have occurred, including the governor's consistency review, where the Governor Polis was given 60 days to consider and determine whether the plan was consistent with the state plans, which he determined it wasn't consistent, and submitted a governor's consistency review. And then again, there was a 30-day protest period, which the town participated in. In April of 2020, April 10th, the BLM decided that they had gotten all their protests and again digested things and then released their final plan. This was on a Friday, the Friday before Easter, during Passover, and we couldn't meet because of COVID. So if that shows you how proud they are of their plan, I think goes to show something. They did have a couple of changes from the alternative or from the proposed plan that I can again go into a little bit of detail if you'd like. But in general, it was pretty similar to the proposed plan. And again, in your packet, in this one, the high-level overview that I wrote out, I kind of outlined a couple of the final plan stipulations or regulations that they will follow. Of the main ones that I wanted to highlight tonight was the fluid mineral leasing and development, and again, that's kind of a high-profile issue. The final plan, again, would open 95% of the field office and basically the entirety of the North Fork Valley's public lands, oil and gas development. Again, I've got some acreages here, and basically so in 2016, in their agency preferred alternative, they offered 50,000 acres of no surface occupancy oil and gas stipulations. We requested 306,000 acres of no surface occupancy. The final plan has 44,000. And again, there are some species, you know, their area is meant to protect them, so that special things happen there when development is requested. They really dropped those numbers basically down to as low as they could, as low as they could. And again, same with their lands with wilderness characteristics, which are again lands that have wilderness character values but aren't technically designated wilderness areas. They like even rewrote the management language so that you don't even have to protect the wilderness characteristics. You just have to basically mitigate them if your projects that you were requested. And then for the town specifically, Jumbo Mountain, we wanted a special recreation management area, which they did ultimately achieve, but again, we requested about a little over 5,000 acres of special recreation management area, and the approved plan only designated about 1,600. And of that acreage is all still open to oil and gas development, even though it's, again, it's designated special recreation management area. And then I also did have on here that the timing concerns in the release of the plan. And then again, there were kind of some notable responses to the plan as well. Senator Bennett had a response, and then also our state representatives, Senator Terry Donovan and Representative Julie McCluskey also released a letter to the BLM. At this point, there's no future like administrative process really. You know, like there isn't another comment period or like some deadline, but I do think it basically looking at the plan and looking what the town's comments on in the past, I do think it would be appropriate for the town to submit a letter to the BLM, continuing to mention their concerns and kind of continue the dialogue that we still want to work with them, but we also want our voices to be heard. So that's what I'm here requesting for the town. I did write a letter. I didn't include it in the packet because I kind of wanted this, because there's no deadline. I thought maybe this could be like kind of an information session where we discuss ideas, and again, I welcome questions from the trustees, and then I can, in future meetings, if a letter is what the town decides it wants to respond with, I can draft a letter and continue the conversation, but that was kind of my thought for this meeting. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Ben. Are there questions from Ben from the board members? Yes, Dave.
Just a comment. First of all, I appreciate not being under a deadline. A lot of times in these letters, we have like have to set up special meetings. We've already had to set up one tonight. So I appreciate that. I like the idea that we take our time in drafting this, and I think it's important that we have something on record that we do not, because I think our representatives with Senator Donovan and Representative McCluskey, it's really important that we support what they're trying to do. And so I think it doesn't have to be a really long and involved letter, but I think a couple paragraphs reminding the BLM that we've commented several times on this, that these are our main points about our watershed, our wildlife, our economy, and just go on record with that. Thank you.
Yes, Michelle.
I just want to say, for full transparency, my business is a member of the Western Slope Conservation Center, and I don't think that impacts my vote. I think it's the other way around. The position I hold has led me to be a member of the organization, but I wanted to be transparent about that.
Thank you. Any other comment? Yes, ma'am.
No, just other than I believe that we definitely need to support this. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Karen?
Now that they're through and they've presented their plan, when is construction going to start, or when is oil and gas development going to begin? Is it like Tuesday, or is it, like next year, or is there any kind of opportunity to stop this, or do we have to wait for a new administration, or what?
Yeah, that's a good question. Technically, June 30th is, so oil and gas lease sales occur 4 times a year. And again, there's kind of these they just do this huge process. There's like a mini process where they do a couple of public comment sessions. So like the next lease sale date is in December, but that when we're gonna find out what parcels are included is June 30th, so in 7 days. And, you know, and again, for those of you who were here in December of 2018, you remember that oil and gas lease sale where there were a lot of acreage near the town. Those were all deferred technically. They were deferred in 2018 again based on the outcry from the town, from Governor Hickenlooper. And so those lease parcels couldn't come back. There were 4 other lease sales that happened from 2012 until now, where all of those leases, all of that acreage could potentially come back. It's kind of hard to say right now with, you know, it's hard to say what will happen on June 30th. It will, like all open our computers and there'll be 38,000 acres of leases, or if it will be nothing, because really the only people who know that is the BLM, but that is a possibility, and June 30th would again be the first time, and that will continue kind of through the rest of 2020, and then again in 2021, there will be additional lease sales. So, and again, those leases last for 10 years. So even though the oil and gas economy is low, it's really low right now, you can make the argument that that economy won't come back. They could buy them for pennies on the dollar. You know, they're really cheap. Sit on them where, you know, all of that's just kind of this looming threat, and then in 5-10 years decide, okay, the economy's better now, and then we can move in and develop. So there's a really great answer, but that's the earliest we could potentially see it.
I understand that you said if they had the sale of leases in June 30th, that some of those sales might be deferred in accordance with the comments that's heard then?
Sure, so...
Might have an effect?
Yeah, so the deferral before in 2018 was because they were awaiting this final plan to be released. So that was kind of like the hook. So now, yeah. It gets a little complicated and they,
Thank you. You just do what you can.
Any other comments? Well, I would like to say thank you, Ben, and yes, we want to keep fighting.
Sure.
You know, that's the last thing I want to see in this valley, anywhere near this valley. I think it would be complete devastation for what we've been trying to build in all the years. So, yeah, if there's anything we can do, I think, and I will let the board chime in on this, that having a letter to support what our representatives have already said would be a really good thing. So, you know, I would encourage you to come back with a draft letter to the board, if the board is amenable to that.
Yeah, so back in, you know, in our previous comment letters, we mentioned like our water, wildlife, air quality, and health risks, like our town infrastructure, and then the Jumbo Mountain SRMA. Are there any additional concerns? Because again, are there any additional concerns from the trustees at this point that it would be good to have in the letter that, you know, that I can include? I mean, I can write one based on what knowledge I have already, but I wanted to ask that.
Well, I think the July 25th last letter we wrote was very comprehensive. And something that was modeled on that, I think would be a good idea, because I think we hit all the points on that one.
Sure. Yeah, great. Well, yeah, I'll have it on the agenda, I guess, at our next meeting.
Okay.
Works.
Sure.
No, I just want to go back to something Dave suggested, which was referencing our other representatives who have submitted similar letters, and reference their work today in our letter as well.
Sure.
Good point. Okay, thank you so much for your patience, Ben.
Yeah, absolutely.
Glad you finally made it. Big glad we all finally made it. All right, next item on the agenda is the municipal court judge appointment. Yeah, go Bo.
Well, I don't know why I should take the lead. I just think that we had some great contributions from
both the trustees that were on the committee and Chief Ferguson as well. But in an effort to kick off the conversation, included in the packet is a quick memo that I put together outlining the process and basically making the committee's recommendation that the next town of Paonia municipal court judge be Miss Julie Huffman. Ms. Huffman's CV or resume is included with the packet, and also included is a proposed offer which Ms. Huffman has accepted. So with that, I guess I will turn it over to the other committee members or anybody else that has any questions or concerns.
All right, Dave?
Well, I really want to commend the committee with our town attorney and our chief of police. Michelle and I felt really well supported in what we're trying to do. We really looked at the competencies we needed in a judge. We looked at what the responsibilities of judge are. We formulated a scoring sheet prior to the interviews. We interviewed the candidates, the top two candidates. One of the top two candidates could not be present except by Zoom, and so we did a follow-up in-person interview later, and then after that interview is when we made our final decision. It was a unanimous decision on the part of all four people on the panel to recommend this. We have been very remiss in looking at the salaries of a municipal court judge. Hotchkiss pays $450 a month, Cedar Ridge pays $600 a month, Delta pays $41,000 for a judge 1 day a week. So we're really far behind. We felt that Ms. Huffman really was generous in submitting an offer because that offer did not match what she had requested for a salary. But we told her that we would look at this again in the budget year. She was more comfortable because of the volume of cases that come here with accepting a lower salary. And we really were pleased that we were able to get her to serve as our judge and to accept our offer letter.
Michelle, do you have anything to add?
I think Dave covered it very well. I was very happy and impressed with the process overall. I feel extremely confident in our decision.
Okay, then, can I get a motion on the table to approve the judge?
I move that we approve Ms. Julie Huffman as the next municipal judge for Paonia.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any more discussion?
Are you going to
Yes.
Are you also going to include the salary amount?
Thank you, sorry. I will amend my motion to include the offer of $525 per month compensation plus the additional conference membership and town costs related to that for a total of $7,740 annually. I'm sorry, that's a very long motion.
And you agree with that? Does you second?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing nothing from the board. Suzanne?
I was curious, does this, first of all, if you're doing these deferred sentences and allowing people to do volunteer work, how are you going to come up with money to pay the salary? I mean, here with our building official, you want to be entirely self-supporting, so what's the rationale between increasing the salary but decreasing what you're going to be funding? I have a two-part question. And then the second question is, does the judge's salary have to be written in the form of an ordinance?
The second part is no.
Okay. All right, and did you want to answer the first, Dave?
Remind me of the first.
You know, like volunteer, to defer sentences.
We had an in-depth discussion about the role of the court, and it is a very slippery slope to expect a court to pay for itself. What that does is changes justice immeasurably. So the last thing we want to do is put pressure on a court to raise funds for the town. We want to leave it to the discretion of a judge with good judgment, and we do not feel that it is appropriate for the council to put any pressure on the judge to raise money for us. So we were very clear about that.
Okay, I'm not saying that I can support that because I do have a problem with the way we're administrating, for instance, the building department. The government does have a place. Thank you.
Yeah, we see it as a public service.
Yeah, okay. So, any other comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of appointing, oh geez, sorry, the judge? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that's a unanimous decision. Thank you. We have a new municipal judge. Thank you very much for all your hard work. You guys really went above and beyond in creating this position. Thank you.
And I would echo that in terms of the time dedication from Michelle and Dave. It was greatly appreciated.
Okay, next on the agenda is the GOCO grant, Parks and Recreation Trails Master Plan update, and steering committee approval. Evan is no longer with us, and he's been in charge of this.
I got it.
Okay, so Corinne.
He's been the lead in the administration of this grant, but we have both been attending the regular conferences with Western Slope Consulting, which is the entity that was awarded the grant. They are about ready to start some kickoff meetings with the steering committee and with the public. Right now, they've been gathering information and feet of park space acreage, feet of trails. There's some but limited trail information that will be included in the master plan because that does go outside, of course, outside the town limits, but are a resource and something that the town would be considering when they're looking at development and plans moving forward. As far as the steering committee, the direction given from Western Slope Consulting was that really anywhere from 6 to 15 members or groups is a good number, and we worked together to get a pretty good list of organizations, and I believe that Evan provided you that list. Did he? No?
No.
Okay, well, I have the list. He just finished typing them up today, so apologies that he didn't get that ahead of time. But what we are looking at for a steering committee is, we do have specific people that are tied to it, but what we were looking for from the board was just approval of the organization, so that there's a little bit of fluidity within the organizations if they need to switch up which member is participating in the steering committee. But what we have is a member of the North Fork Recreation District, the North Fork Valley Skate Park Group, the Delta Area Mountain Bikers, the North Fork Rotary Club, the Paonia Senior Center, Ellen Hansen Smith Center, Western Slope Conservation Center, Paonia School, Cherry Days, Mountain Harvest Festival member, and Pigeon Productions. So we felt that that was a good representation of all of the people that live and reside and would be utilizing our parks, trails, and recreation, and would benefit from being part of the ongoing planning. And that part will be, that master plan again will be a separate piece on its own, but can also be incorporated and included in the overall master plan update for the town. So all we're looking for is board approval of the organizations that are included in the steering committee, and if there's anyone that a board member feels that we've left out that they would like us to reach out to include, we can do that as well.
Okay, well, let's start by getting a motion on the table.
I'd like to move that we approve the suggested list of organizations to the planning committee for trails.
And a second? Okay, so does the board have any other input as to who should be on the committee? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think Eagle from Riverbank should be on it.
Okay. Any other suggestions?
I don't even know if such a thing exists, but if we have any organizations in town that are doing winter sports, cross-country skiing or snowshoeing or anything like that, just to round it out a little for those seasonal activities.
And Beers and Gears, I don't know if they are still functioning at all, but that would be another organization that's a festival that goes on. Okay, any other suggestions? Okay, anything from the public? Okay, hearing none. We have a motion to approve the organizations. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay, hearing none. That motion carries. All right, moving right along. We are at the Delta County Collaboration Agreement, distribution of Coronavirus Aid Relief, Economic Security Act funds to the county and local government. So we have a agreement of how those monies are going to be distributed. Do you have anything you would like to add to that, Corinne?
The agreement, it really does speak for itself, but basically, under the CARES Act, there is a pool of money that is designated to the states and then to the counties and local municipalities to assist in recovery of funds that are expended that are not budgeted for due to the COVID-19. And one of the requirements of receipt of that money is that the county has to have in place an agreement with each municipality on how that reporting of the expenditures would be handled, and that would go to the county, who is then the entity that will report to the state, and then the county would receive funds and disperse to the town. We have had it reviewed as well by the town attorney, who had no noted objections or concerns with the agreement.
Okay, can we get a motion on the table to approve the collaboration agreement? Okay, we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, hearing none from the board, Suzanne?
I was just curious, when we're talking about the extra money that we're having to spend because of COVID, is there somewhere that we can do this? I mean, I was just curious, what is money being spent on by the town? Where are we going above and beyond having to spend money? What are we applying it to? You're just saying to get funds.
Yes, yes. Do we have any funds that we have expended so far, Corinne?
Yes, it's reimbursement of funds. So you have to meet criteria. You have to show that it's funds that were expended that were not budgeted for and were in direct relation to COVID. So things like the requirements that we have to make sure that we're providing appropriate masks and gloves and protection for the different departments that are working out in the public, the safety modifications that have been made in the police department and town hall, such as the barriers, things like that. We are, it does not include a lot of sales tax revenues, but we are reviewing to confirm whether or not we can use a loss in fees, such as the waiving of fees that the town has provided and removal of disconnections and things like that as well. I don't have confirmation on that right now. But we have expended fee funds. Our numbers are not as high as others, which is a good thing. But any funds that we're expending that were not budgeted and are specific to the pandemic would be eligible for request for reimbursement.
Thank you, Corinne. All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor of signing the agreement? Aye.
Any opposed?
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. All right. Let's go on to number 13, continuation of waiving certain utility fees during the declaration of local disaster specific to coronavirus. So we have waived some fees, and it looks like at this point approximately $2,400 that have been waived to date. $800 per month in late fees, and a total of $2,400, and $250 in reimbursed credit card payments. So, shall we get a motion on the board about the continuing to do these fees?
I'd like to move that we continue the waiving of utility fees until our local disaster specific to coronavirus expires.
Okay,
We have a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion from the board. Yes, Karen?
I'm wondering whether that reimbursed credit card fees, that was for paying online for your bill. I mean, there's a drop-off box right here, and there's also the U.S. Post Office. You know, and they can just put a 50-cent stamp on the envelope. I don't think we should have to take online and pay their fees. I just really don't.
Bill?
Yeah, I'd like to comment and say that, this is not money that we're not taking in, because somewhere else in the budget, we have to make up this money. Just because these people aren't paying it doesn't mean that the town doesn't need it. It's gonna come from another source. Ultimately, it's gonna lead, I don't know if it's this amount of money, but it's gonna have to be made up by water fees. So I think that we need to think a lot hard before we continue to extend these numbers. Even though the people aren't paying it, somebody else is having to pay the fees.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Any other comments? Yes, Michelle.
Well, I might have commented, but it looks like Corinne does, so no?
Yeah, I get excited, I need to wait my turn. I was just going to make the suggestion to the board that we not include waiving the credit card fees. The reason that was initially presented to the board was because we were closing town hall, and so in an effort to encourage people as well to shelter in place and not come out and use Dropbox or even the post office as far as mailing out to lessen contact. That's why that initial request to waive the fees was included. What we did find is that there was not a substantial increase in online payments, a substantial increase in payments in the Dropbox and in the mail. So if the board chooses to continue waiving the late fees, my suggestion would be that we not include the credit card fees. And along the lines of, no, that's all.
Okay, do you have any idea when you get a response as to whether these fees could be covered by our CARES Act money?
We could look into it and get that to you at the July board meeting.
Okay. Because it seems to me if it's going to be covered by the CARES Act, we might as well continue to go ahead and waive the late fees. If it's not, then yes, we do need to look at this to see if, because it will have an impact on the budget. So, can I are we interested in doing an amendment to the motion about not including the reimbursed credit card fees?
Sure.
Okay.
He seconded my sure. So, the actual amended motion is that we continue to waive credit card, or we continue to waive late fees through the end of our disaster declaration. But we discontinue the credit card fee waiver.
Okay.
Okay, we have a second on that. All right.
I've got a question.
Yes, Bill.
You're waiving these $2,400 in late fees, but also, are they all paying the bill?
When I send out a notice, they do say 75%. We have our regular I would add that. There is an increase on our aging report, in the amount of debt that we're carrying forward. There are people also that are making partial payments, instead of full payments. It's not an extreme number, though. But yes, there are definitely more people that are behind than we've been carrying for the last several years. So, and on that line of thought as well, I do want the board to start having in mind as well that as this continues that we also have not been doing any disconnections. So there's no disconnection of services, and didn't plan to really go into any detail or anything this evening, but moving forward in the next few months, if this is something that the board continues, we'll have to have a broader discussion on our standard method of collection, which is a lien process.
Okay. Any other discussion? Yes, Michelle.
I just want to say I agree with Bill. This is something we're going to have to look at sooner rather than later. I know that no one in our town wants to see another water rate increase. And the longer we're not collecting the funds that we normally count on, the more likely that becomes, I think. So my one caveat to that is I also don't think we should spring this on anybody unexpected. I hope that we could at least start the discussion soon so that when we do begin collecting those again or doing shutoffs again, that we're giving everyone at least a month's notice that we're resuming that process.
Thank you, Michelle. All right, any other discussion? Yes, Suzanne.
Well, I'm assuming that technically you're collecting late fees and doing disconnections because the last amnesty you gave was only through April 30th, which I wasn't sure if it was the April 30th bill or the you could pay until April 30th. But that was what you voted on last time. It lasted 1 month.
No, we have continued it.
Mhm.
It has continued. As far as the waiving of late fees has continued. We have not applied a late fee.
Okay. I was just curious because the board didn't vote on that last time.
Typically, the late fee waiving has been administrative, and I brought it to the board and asked the board's request to continue waiving the late fee because we were doing it for multiple months, and they did continue it, and that has been a continuation at renewal of each local disaster extension. But since the extensions were only month to month previous to this extension, that's why we brought it back, because this extension goes through August, and that's a multiple month waiving, which was initially the discussion that the board wanted brought back on the agenda, was whether or not they were going to waive the fees for the length of the local disaster designation moving forward, or if it's going to be one more month, we waive it for June and we readdress at the July 14th meeting, however the board chooses to proceed.
I suppose this local disaster could last for 2 years, actually.
Well, the board will have to approve it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Dave.
I'd just like to point out that according to our 2020 budget, we expect to receive $765,000 in water bill receipts. So $2,400 is not going to kill us. I just want to make sure that people have that in perspective.
Yep. Thank you very much, Dave. All right, so we have a motion and a second on the table to continue waiving the late fees. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, that motion carries. Okay, on to discussion regarding officer appointments. So this came up at the last meeting, and I have to thank Suzanne for bringing it up because it did get me thinking about this whole thing. And we went back and we started reviewing as to what has been historically happening in this town. And as illuminated by Corinne. Yes, Amanda, would you like to jump in?
Yes, you guys are going to vote on the amendment. On the amended motion?
Oh!
Which one did you guys vote on?
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate somebody who's paying attention. All right, so.
Okay.
So are we
You guys
okay?
are the amended, but not the main.
So it'd be a motion.
Okay. So we're voting on the motion to amend the main motion?
No, we're voting on the main motion.
Okay.
As amended.
That's amended.
Okay, okay. Backing up. All in favor of the amended main motion of waiving late fees but not credit card charges, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you, Amanda. We're on track again. Okay, back to discussion about the officer appointments. So it has been, we have been running with the county and doing it every 4 years. In 2016, Jane Berry changed the town, in 2016, Jane Berry changed the town clerk. And so we have to vote on officers at that point. Then the 4 years was back on track in 2018. So we voted in 2018 for officers. 2020 is 2 years from that, and a 4-year appointment in 2022 will be the next time we vote for officers. Because it would be every 4 years. So 18, 22, 14 before that, and the 16 was the aberration in that order, and which is why it was then. Okay, Paige, do you have a comment?
I do. If I could just sit here so I have my computer in front of me. Paige Smith. So I looked through all this. It's really convoluted, but the salient points are that you have to follow the statutes for a statutory town. In a statutory town, the appointment of officers says the election of officers shall be at the regular election. And a regular election is defined as being done first Tuesday of April in each even numbered year. So what I'm saying is you really have a 2-year appointment schedule that you should be on. I don't know what you did in the past, but based on all that, it should be every 2 years, which to me makes sense because you elect new trustees every 2 years. So why would the new set of trustees have the opportunity to be part of the appointment of the town clerk, treasurer, attorney, and municipal judge? And to add to that, the town municipal code, section 2430, appointment of a municipal judge, says the municipal court shall be presided over by a municipal judge appointed for a term of 2 years by ordinance and the board of trustees. So I know I'm bumming up the works for you, but these things seem to override. County commissioners have a whole different set of statutes that don't apply to statutory towns. So,
okay.
And I can provide you with my stuff.
Bo, do you have an opinion on this? I know you have looked at this.
Sure, and again, I always give my caveat, as you guys know, in terms of we don't provide legal advice in an open meeting. So I would take the approach that, we have our regular election and we have our off-year election. And it's a little bit different because we had so many people that were elected at this election due to some of the people that didn't finish a complete term. We did just appoint a municipal judge tonight, so we'll have to mark that 2-year provision. I do take the approach that it can be either 2 years or 4 years. However, we feel like it needs to be cleaned up, and it needs to be cleaned up in the statute, and so that we're not dealing with this kind of in the future. And so I would defer to the board of trustees, as I believe Corinne, the town manager, would, in terms of if you guys want to do 2 years, if you guys want to do 4, that's fine, but let's make it clear so that we have this point moving forward.
Okay. Well, since this is only a discussion item, does the board have any preference? And we can put it on the next agenda as to what we want to change in our code for it to say. Yes, Dave.
As a newly elected trustee, I think it's kind of nice that you come in and then you look at some appointments. And so I kind of think a 2-year cycle isn't necessarily bad because the voters are putting new people up here every 2 years. And, in a lot of cases, it's merely are we happy with our treasurer? Are we happy with our judge? The new trustees can verify that and the person's in for 2 years and just do it every 2 years. So it's cleaner to me, and then there isn't a conflict with the statute.
Okay. Are there any other opinions? Yes, Michelle.
I agree with that. I like the idea of 2-year appointments. I think that, especially when we have unusual years like this year where there are so many open seats for elections, then it makes sense, as Paige said, for a nearly new board to have the opportunity to make appointments.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Dave.
There is a nefarious attempt on my part to increase Corinne's contract to 2 years instead of 1 by making this motion. Anyway, she is town clerk, and we need to be clear that she'd be town clerk for 2 years.
Okay. Any other opinions? Decisions? Yes, Bill.
I would agree with 2 years. That way the correct board will get a chance to weigh in and have that offer their opinion. I'll be precluded for another 2 years.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Anyone else? Yes, Nick.
I was very glad to get a 2-year term. Let's put it that way. So 2 years is good with me.
Okay, I would just take.
Madam Mayor?
Yes!
May I make a comment?
Yes, sir.
At the new election, I did approach the town clerk and offered to resign. And, now wait a minute, not that I didn't want to continue at the pleasure of the board, but I thought that was the process. And I'm perfectly willing to do that and to open it up for the people who would like to apply to be the town treasurer and the board to make the decision, and I'm perfectly willing to live with whatever that is. So, I understand, and I don't want anybody to think that, I'm married to this job, but, if in fact there were other people out there who would like to do it, they should put their names in and be considered.
Thank you, guys. And I would just take just a little bit of devil's advocate on this, in that when I was won election in 2018, one of the first things that we did was appoint officers. And if I had not been coming to those meetings prior to that, I wouldn't have had a clue as to whether the people who were currently serving and who were proposed were competent or not. And so I felt really not capable of making a proper decision. So doing it every 2 years does put well, no matter what we do, 2 years or 4 years, you're going to have half the board who's going to be in exactly that same position again. Yes, Suzanne.
I do want to say when I came on as a trustee in 2012, the appointments didn't happen until like 3 months later, when a council citizen asked me, why haven't you done appointments? And I didn't know that it was a statutory requirement. And then I believe in 2014, we also did the appointments. So, Hotchkiss also does, Hotchkiss is a statutory town, and they do appointments every 2 years. So it's not unusual. I do want to say in the state statute, the regular election, I mean, I'm hearing this wording of off-year elections, but a regular election says the first Tuesday of April in each even numbered year is a regular election. That's every 2 years. So if these officers have to be appointed after the regular election, that means every 2 years. And again, we are a statutory town. I find the statutes very fascinating. And it's, you read them, and sometimes you read them again in 2, 4 years, 5 years, and you realize, oh, maybe I was reading that wrong. But it's really a good exercise to keep going back to the statutes, because we all learn. It's a framework of laws that have been set up that make government understandable, where it's not like fluctuating all the time. So I encourage the trustees to look at Title 31 more closely, and maybe when you have your training seminars, I know they give you the most pertinent titles that apply to us, but Title 31 is a really important document to look at, and it's great for citizens to look at too. And it can take a long time to get your head around, but I mean, it has to do with state government, it has to do even the BLM, things that are happening here. You know, getting to know the statutes gives people a lot of power and a lot of security. So, thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Okay, so it seems like we have direction to go ahead and have brought to the board next meaning a cleaned up statute that says we vote every 2 years.
If I may, to do every 2 years, then we should do the appointments. It's several.
Right. Right. Okay. All right, so that is the last item. We are now to the consent agenda. We do have a couple of things that were not included in the packet that you did get via paper. So when whoever is making the motion to approve the consent agenda, if you want to include or exclude these 2 items, please do as you will.
I'd like to make a motion that we include in the consent, or exclude in the consent agenda the June 4th minutes. Just as far as transparency goes, I don't like that's handed to the council on the day of the meeting that the public doesn't have access to in the packet. And so I would ask that that be removed, and that's my motion.
Okay, do we have a second on that motion? All right, any discussion? Okay, then we have a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of the special minutes from June 4th, 2020. Karen?
What about the payment of liquors? Is this one that we just got today?
Yeah.
So is that the same? It's on the consent agenda here, but it's just got it.
It was in our packet.
Yeah, I think this is the one piece that wasn't in the package.
Okay, right, the rest of it was, okay, yeah. Thank you for the clarification.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, that carries. All right, disbursements, treasurer's report.
Madam Mayor, we have not approved the consent agenda. We just approved taking June 4th off.
Oh, I thought the
Motion
motion
was to approve the consent agenda without the June 4th.
I think my motion was just to remove the June 4th minutes. And that was seconded, and we passed that. We didn't pass the consent agenda. That wasn't part of my motion.
Okay.
You asked that, you didn't have it.
got it, okay.
And Mary, Madam Mayor,
Yes.
if I may clarify, the Paleo liquors, that was not in the packet.
Oh, okay, that is not in the packet, so we only, okay. All right, well, let's go to
Dave's motion. Let's go,
So I make another motion to remove table liquor.
well, let's take care
so
let's do Jake's first motion to just remove the minutes from June 4th. All in favor of that one? Opposed? Okay.
now, we want to,
Do you want to do it? Okay. Would someone like to make a motion to remove the pay on the liquor approval?
Yes, I'd like to make, I'm sorry.
Corinne?
I apologize, and I understand the desire for transparency, but I would ask the board, make an exception to their usual policy and include the standard liquor license renewal. There's no changes or modifications, but due to virus and deadlines, without an approval, they will have a lapse in their license if we table that to the next board agenda.
Good information. No motion then.
okay. Then, we need a motion to approve the consent agenda without the June 4th minutes.
I move that
I
we,
move to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, yes.
I would like to have that in the packet for the next meeting, even though it has been approved, so the public can see it.
Okay. All right, now, treasurer's report. Ross, finally.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Brief. We reviewed payroll and disbursements for the Finance and Personnel Committee, and as previously noted, Sensei time is spent on reviewing the audit and its recommendation to the board for approval and final. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Ross. All right, disbursements. Do we have a motion on disbursement?
I move that we approve payment of accounts payable in the amount of $54,385.44. Transfer to the summit account of $150,000. Transfer to the internal grant account, which will then be subsequently transferred to COLA Trust, $454.96. Transfer to payroll, $22,994.43, and payroll taxes, $18,117.51, and subsequent payment of payroll direct deposit of $22,994.43, and then the transfer to COLA Trust of that $454.96.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second that.
Any discussion? Yes, Bill?
I have several questions on the disbursements. Advanced plumbing, what was that? Okay. So that's.
It was a pump on the
pressure pump. We have a pressure problem. Okay. Okay, so that, the next question has elevated fiber, $350.90. How many elevated fiber connections do we have?
We have two, but we also have our phone systems in this building through them as well.
So there's two connections.
Two connections plus the phones in this building.
Okay, so there's one in the building and where's the other connection?
Waterfront.
And all the phones plus bills, there's quite a bit of money left with the building support.
There, no, I was just going to go while we get to the invoicing process.
Yeah, the first one's for a conference phone. The second one, the $1,849, is for a laptop and a new transmitter in here, so the mics work better. $39 is installation, and the $425 is also installation of the receiver in here. The $1,595.95, we had our phones and computer go down here, and we had to replace them. And that was the cost of replacement.
Okay, and then all the roof and excavating bills, is that associated with the recent water break up charge?
Although, in the first grade, then there later on must be two more on Old Road.
So it was all the old road?
No, the second in Minnesota had spring line repair. Those were mine, the big ones were all Old Road.
It was about 20,000.
Okay, and then just to remind you guys, you're going to come to us with an estimate of what that total expense was for the sidewalk repairs.
That is correct, and like we discussed at the meeting, right now we know that we have approximately just about 25,000, but there's a few things that are still outstanding that we haven't included yet, and when we bring that to you, we want to make sure that it's exhaustive.
Any other questions? Yes, Michelle.
Colorado Interiors?
That is the installation, we had discussed previously about installing blinds that were heat and cooling, they would reduce the heat and things like that throughout town hall. But ultimately with the budget constraints and things, we decided to only address the upstairs interior offices, which have, if you've ever been up there, have a dramatic difference in temperature. And we are happy to report, as others that have been up there can, that immediately after installation, there's already been a significant drop in the temperature upstairs.
I have a couple more, or actually just one more. Coys Brothers Equipment?
Okay, any other? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of accepting the distributions? Opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Okay, we're going to the mayor's report next. Okay. I have been again in discussions with Sally Kane, and she has generously donated her time to run our retreat. So I would like to set a date for that currently. I am proposing that we do it the second week in July, the week of the 7th. And the possible dates I have are July 7th, 8th, or 9th at 3 or 6 p.m. It would be 2 hours long, or July 11th at 1 or 6. Do we have a preference?
We have relatives coming in from California that are covering us, so they don't have to take care of Jill's mom. And this releases us for a vacation for 5 days from the 9th to the 12th.
Okay, so you're open the 7th and the 8th.
7th and 8th are okay, but we're on vacation the other days.
Okay. Does anyone else preference? Okay. Those people who work, which is Michelle and Tammy, would you rather do it after work or would you rather do it in the evening?
I'm available after 1 p.m. and I can't speak for Tammy's schedule, but I believe generally she would be more available after 2 or 3 in the afternoon.
Okay, well my personal preference is to do it earlier rather than later. So I propose that we have our retreat on July 7th at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Yes? On the 7th at 3? Okay, what about then let's move it to the 8th at 3 o'clock. Okay. I will get in touch with Sally, we will do our prep, and we will meet here at Town Hall. It will be open to the public and agendized, just like a regular board meeting. Okay. Excellent. Thank you, everyone. July 8th at 3 p.m. Okay.
Mayor?
Yes.
Can I ask for clarification on how long this is going to last? You had discussed
2 hours.
2 hours. And
Yes.
that's the board and mayor.
Yes, it's just the board and mayor. The next meeting that we will have, we will schedule after that, probably sometime in August. And then we will try to include staff at that point. And then, okay. All right. And so, committee reports, finance and personnel.
First of all, Wayne requested appointment to the Finance and Personnel Committee, and I asked a little bit about how that came about, because it turns out, at least according to her, Jean Berry took citizens off our committees, and we used to have citizens on our committees. So I just think, first of all, Wayne brings a lot to the table, so I wonder if the board, I've discussed this with Karen, I wonder if the board would be willing to have a discussion at our next meeting about the pros and cons of putting a citizen, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a citizen within the town, but a citizen to join our various committees that I think would add a little horsepower. It could also be a feeder for future board members. So that was one part of our report. The other part is we didn't even get a chance to get the liaison committee with Evan on it, and he quits. Now, I know it's daunting to be on the liaison committee, but he didn't have to quit in order to avoid it. So I guess I have to ask the employees to do another selection.
I've already provided them the selection sheets, and they're already starting to roll in.
Cool, thank you for having your way on top of it. That's our report.
Okay. Anything to add, Terry?
We asked the board for feedback on the form for the administrator's review. We've gotten feedback from 2 members, and we'd like to get some more feedback. If we don't, we will bring you a finished thing next meeting. Not at the special meeting, but at the regular meeting.
Great, thank you. All right, government affairs and public safety. Oh,
For the committee. So, since you're on it, I wasn't gonna bring it up right away, and I thought I might write something, but, the personal liaison committee, it does say a Peonia citizen, a town citizen. And if you look up the definition of citizen, it's someone who owes allegiance to its government, and is entitled, for instance, they're entitled to vote. It's specific to living in town, a legally recognized subject or national of the state or commonwealth or whatever. But it's a Peonia citizen is someone who actually has the ability to vote, gets to pay the in-town taxes, pays his town water. Elaine is definitely an out-of-town person. A Peonia citizen is not someone who lives in the general area just because they're near Peonia. And you might want to change that in the personnel manual if you want this to be correct, or get Elaine to annex the town so she can be more of a member. And then I also am kind of curious about this participation in the committee. If you do that, I'd like the committee meetings to be open so I can participate and I can listen as a town resident to what's going on in committee meetings. Before you start, I think I should be able to be included as well, even if it's just listening in. So thank you.
okay, thank you. All right, government affairs, public safety. Yep, Michelle?
I see you're nodding. Okay. So for the government affairs, public safety committee, you've already heard from us a lot tonight on the items that we've been working on. We do have another meeting tomorrow at 2 p.m. and it will be open to the public. Our plan is for our committee meetings to be open to the public going forward. Items that are still on our agenda are the building inspection income versus fees, jobs at large, which Chief Ferguson has been working on with the local kennel. I expect we'll hear more about that at our next meeting. Food trucks. We will plan a meeting with food truck business people and other business people in town to have a discussion about that. And we've been tasked by a board member to also review the police taser policy with Chief Ferguson. So we'll be looking at that probably tomorrow. We are asking for board input on building inspection income versus expenses. So we've been talking about several ideas related to that. One possibility would be reducing the types of inspections that the building inspector does and moving some of the ones that have no impact on safety into more of an administrative function rather than a building inspector function. We don't know how the board as a whole feels about this, but if the board wants us to move forward, we'd like to plan a meeting with community members, with our building inspector, with contractors to discuss what that might look like.
Okay, Nick, you have anything to add?
No, as usual, Michelle did a great job.
Okay, thank you. All right, public works.
I actually have something to add. Since we are talking about appointments, earlier on, if you look at the ordinance that we've adopted, which is the International Building Code, it says the building inspector shall be appointed by the chief appointing authority of the jurisdiction. And that's language that's not going to change if you do adopt a new building code either. So technically, he's an officer, he's an official. He has to take that oath of office and he answers to you guys. So it's not just a contractual arrangement, it's also an appointment. And I don't know if you want me to, a copy of the code in your office, you can look that up. And then one other thing is, I was just wondering, since Boner is going to be looking at this ordinance that you're discussing, 3123-301 is a zoning grant of power, and it's included in the whereases of the fence ordinance. And I was thinking 3115-601 might be more appropriate. It regulates fences in a general ordinance sense. And I don't know if, I just wanted to bring that to your attention too. So 3123-301
33-301 versus 3115-601. Thanks.
Okay. All right, Public Works, Utilities, Facilities?
Yes, we met today with the staff, Tammy and I did, discussed a number of issues, the upcoming street paving and failing this year. As I said before, we have about $200,000 to spend, although about $50,000 that's going to be used up fixing these Main Street and County Ditch project behind the town hall here. Travis did approach a couple of the contractors that do paving. United Company came back to him with about $98,000 charge to do the paving. He's waiting for the county. In the past, we've used the county at a lot cheaper, so Travis is hopefully going to get some information on that pretty quick. Water meters at the school, hopefully I'll have that project done wrapped up before August 14th, the day school is supposed to start. That includes the water meter, which we already have, and a vault, which is ordered, and then maybe some contractor charges. Sidewalks and tree removals, I understand some letters have gone out or are going out to various property owners of county concerning trees, and sidewalks, and Travis is trying to get to match the budget or the amount of money we have this year, the sidewalk costs and the tree removal costs, if there is any, together to get a final project list. Also discuss the ongoing projects of mapping, the water study. Both have been impacted with the COVID that are ongoing. And there's some collaboration between the two because there's some common needs for the data. 1 million gallon tank repairs, I understand. We'll be working on the lease agreement.
Yeah.
Okay, so they need the lease agreement back before they can proceed, and that's involved in spring lines tonight. Travis covered those tonight, as well as the Minnesota Creek and the river sewer projects, river line sewer line project. He also covered the playground, and one of the ongoing issues we have is bulk water sales. The system is working. The system doesn't have any additional cards to sell, so we're looking at changing that out, but nothing's been done with that yet. And that's about it.
Thank you, Bill. All right, Space Creek, there's nothing to report, and Freeboard, Tammy isn't here, so there's nothing to report. Yes, correct.
Just want to make via text and ongoing conversation with the chief. He is very under the weather and will not be here tomorrow. So that may impact some of those conversations that he needs to be present for. So I wanted to make the committee aware of that.
Thank you, Corinne. All right, if there is nothing else, then I am going to adjourn this meeting. See you in Seattle. Thank you, everyone, for coming, for wearing your mask, and your patience to get to this point. And also, thank you for your patience with me as I muddle through trying to figure out how to do this job. So thank you very much. All right. We did an amazing job. We got through a lot of stuff in a lot of time. So good job, guys. Enjoy the rest of your evening.